Okay, Amani, Amani, habari, everyone. We are live. Amani Oni, the first one to be here. Thank you for joining us. As always, we start with a prayer to the ancestors to guide our discussion, to guide the conversation, and to give us insight, enlightenment, to share information and to learn graciously. So, with that, let us begin. Okay, so today it's going to be an off topic only because I am not obviously I'm not a big fan of sports and things like that, but I am interested in the matter of propaganda. So, in that respect, that is why the topic for today. So, it's from an article called, it's part of a larger article called the propaganda model. Okay, sorry. The propaganda model. And that is usually attributed to Noam Chomsky, but in this regard, it is applied to sports. Okay, so I'll do a bit of a reading. I don't know if you can see it. If you can, let me know. If not, I'll just do like I always do, read it. And I do apologize. I'm using a different computer today, so yes. So we'll just work through it and see how it goes. So this paper, this is chapter 12 of the book about propaganda model, and the chapter is about the sport of shafting funds and taxpayers, an application of the propaganda model to the coverage of professional athletes and team owners by Barry Pollock. So this paper applies Herman and Noam Chomsky's propaganda model, hereafter called PM, to the media's coverage of sports, team owners versus professional athletes, and hypothesizing that the media will use more negative terms to describe athletes than to describe the owners. So that is the propaganda. Continuing, this hypothesis reflects the dominant classes. This hypothesis reflects the predictions of the PM, which posits This hypothesis reflects the predictions of the PM, which posits that the dominant classes will tend to receive favorable coverage, while workers' interests will tend to be excluded from the debate. While it's true that professional athletes are typically privileged workers with high salaries and influential public profiles, the main role they are expected to perform is to generate massive profits for team owners, sponsors, and TV networks by providing non-controversial entertainment. Furthermore, these athletes may suffer serious injuries such as ACL tears or even brain trauma, which may eventually lead to arthritis or chronic traumatic encephalitis, respectively. As former NFL player and present Noam Chomsky enthusiast John Moffitt put it, in explaining why he abruptly gave up the fame and fortune of pro football, he says, "I think it is really madness to risk your body, risk your well-being, and risk your happiness for money." He added, "Once you tear away the illusions of it, it's hard work and it's dangerous work, and you're away from your family. It's very tough on families," sentiments that would characterize any number of professional sports. So the first thing he says about being a sports athlete is that it requires a lot of service. It requires a lot of risk, both physical, emotional, and it's also just risky for your mental, health. It says once you tear away the illusions of it is that sports is this well paid. They're well paid. They work hard, but it's still a good life. And they play only some seasons out of the year, and then the rest of the year they sort of take off. And basically, their life is an enviable one. But the summary of the empirical studies using the propaganda method. There has been ample evidence for PM with respect to the coverage of such issues as North America, the NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, anti-globalization process, environment. So there's been studies in many things, using this propaganda model, which basically says it says that the dominant will always use media to put themselves in a good light while putting down other people. So anybody who's against, let's say, employees versus employers will get the good summary or the good conclusion, while the workers will always be left with something more negative. So in terms of sports coverage, Chomsky says that critical theories should consider a wide range of cultural artifacts, not restricting themselves to elite subjects. It would be useful to content analyze the coverage of professional athletes versus that of team owners to determine quantitatively the extent of the hegemonic biases predicted in the propaganda model. Such a content analysis may enable sports enthusiasts to recognize and resist manipulative coverage. So in seeing the propaganda, it makes it, it's not impossible to resist it completely, but at least you can know what the propaganda is and how it is being used in whatever field of study. To achieve this end, the paper conducts a study of professional athletes versus that of team owners in major US sports, with a particular focus on what is widely viewed as the NFL, the National Football League. Specifically, the paper will analyze both the New York Times, which represents what's called the agenda-setting elite press that determine what issues and events are deemed newsworthy by the lower-level media, and establish the parameter with which debate and interpretation can occur. So you have the traditional media, you have the people who set the trend, so to speak. They determine what is considered good and proper and newsworthy, because even if you look at the content, it's not just what they're reporting, but what they choose to report, because the news is not just the news of everything that has happened. There's too much that happens for everything to be reported. So firstly, somebody has to, determine what context is going to be broadcast, and what they say, what is newsworthy, what is useful, or what is quantitatively useful to the classes. So what they report is also the first level of control. So that's the first thing, and then after that is also how they report it. Cultural studies show how media culture articulates the dominant values and political ideologues of our era and provides tools that enable us to read and interpret our culture critically, empowering us to resist media manipulation, increase our freedom and individuality, and strive for alternative cultures and political change. So there is manipulation in pretty much everything, including even the seemingly innocent things such as sports. Hello. You say you're there. Let me take a second then to greet people. I was just in that phase of talking to myself, because I only saw Oni earlier, but it says nobody is watching, so I don't know. It says there's 0 people. So Amani, Oni, I said Amani, Brother Bakari, thank you for joining. We are four is chilling. So yeah, good to have you. Good to have you in the house. Wow. Okay, so there are a few people in. I know this was kind of oh, thank you. Asante sana, Brother Bakari. I know this was kind of a random one. I've been away, as you know, for some time. I'm actually heading to the motherland tomorrow. So this one is going to be a short one. That's why I chose a subject I knew just a little bit about, but not too much. So, but yeah, so I'm just... I'm away from my usual material, so we're not doing the usual deprogramming, but it's still part of the deprogramming series, I would say. So yeah, let's just continue. So just to summarize, the author was talking about in the propaganda model used in politics, and the propaganda model is where the dominant the narrative is told in a way that puts the dominant system in a good light versus the opposite side. So in terms of the sports, you have the sports team owners versus the professional athletes. And while the athletes are, well paid, their lives are envied by most people, and they seem to live a good life. When you look at the coverage of the athletes, it's very different from how the team owners are covered, are the news from the team coverage. So they don't talk about, firstly, they don't talk about the risk of the athletes, what risk that they take. If you're an owner, the only risk that you're taking, well, it's a big risk, but it is the only risk. It's not a personal, it's not a physical risk, but it's a risk, financial risk. If you put money into a sports team as a sports owner, you'll make money or you might lose it. I don't think the chances of losing are very high, but that's the risk that you're taking. But on the other hand, the people who are doing the work, like this person said, that you risk your well-being, you risk your happiness for money, and once you tear away the illusions of it, it's hard work, it's dangerous work, and you're away from your family. It's very tough on families, and so it takes a toll on the athletes that is not really, that aspect of it is not really looked at, and only the good side of sports and the entertaining side of it. And also, when he started, he was talking about how athletes are only expected to perform, is to generate massive profits for the team owners, for the sponsors, and the TV networks, and they're supposed to provide non-controversial entertainment, and emphasis on the non-controversial aspect of it. So if you're an entertainer, you have to play nice, you have to be good, you only keep your playing on the field, and outside of the field you're supposed to cause no controversy. So that is the life of a sports person, specifically when you play for the big leagues. So the paper looks at the elite New York Times, and what they report on. They are termed the agenda setting elite. So they set the agenda. Oh, Amani. Okay, we do have a few people. Amani Koku is in the house at Beta Medicine Focus. Thank you for joining. Okay, so so basically we are looking at the reporting, the media analysis of report coverage of both owners, sports team owners, and athletes. And so the first thing to look at in terms of propaganda is in terms of who sets the propaganda, who is the propagandist. And in this instant, it's the elite, the agenda setting press, the agenda setting press. So they're the ones who determine, they are the lead press who determine what is going to be reported, what is newsworthy, and the secondly is the report how it's going to be reported. And then the second one, which is a new rising media, is the internet, which is Google. Before, it was only in the hands of the of the paper press, the New York Times magazines, and so on. But now there is another, option for people to find the information. And, for that one, they looked at Google, at Google, that's the biggest. So the New York Times represents, the elite agenda setting press, and Google.com is the universal, but still, massive media conglomerate. So Google represents a more universal source of sports news that includes newspapers, magazines. So even within that Google, you still have the elite press, because even New York Times and all this, everything is online now. So the boundaries of Google. So if the claims are true that the media frame issues in a way that favors elite interest, we should find that players are rarely described in positive terms as say generous, whereas team owners, by contrast, are rarely described in negative terms such as greedy, lazy, or overpaid. So so there's the Okay, so he looks at the context of the study. This economic, ironically, point that this is taboo for media organizations depend on corporate and advertisers to mention socialism in a positive light. So socialism, one type of socialism that seems to receive a free pass is that which benefits powerful interests. So that's the first, way that the elite owners get an advantage, but it's rarely reported that way. Namely, major cities across America have socialized the profits of multi-millionaire sports teams owners at the expense of those cities' taxpayers. Indeed, owners of teams in the four largest sports leagues, the NFL, MLB, the NBA, and the NHL, received nearly $20 billion in taxpayer subsidies for new arenas from 1990 to 2011, even though urban planners and economists have argued that building facilities for private sports teams is a massive waste of public money. So the owners of the four largest leagues had got 20 billion in taxpayer subsidies, so welfare. So they are receiving public tax-paying welfare in the tune of 20 billion. 20 divided by 4, so each of them received about 5 billion each in taxpayer money for new arenas, to build these new arenas. And yet, a lot of economists, they have said that this is a waste of public money. It doesn't really earn the city a lot of money. Probably some people do get employed, but for the most part, it's not really a money-making endeavor. Easterbrook notes that this economic injustice has earned little coverage by the media, local or national, where the free agencies of Robinson Cano, LeBron James, okay, I know him, Carmelo Anthony, I don't know him, Terrell Suggs, I don't know most of these people, but I'll just try to go them. I'm sure most of you know them, have received considerable coverage. So when the owners get all the $20 billion, you don't find a lot of reporting on it. You don't find people talking about it so much. But when you have the players, let's say, what's the players' names? LeBron James, you have Terrell Suggs, Carmelo Anthony, what's his name? Yes, Robinson Cano. So all these people who are free agents, they have received a lot of media attention for how much they earn. And in terms of LeBron James, James has been a free agent for just 2 days, yet a Google search on June 26 yielded 3 billion hits, much of it negative, focusing on how overpaid the players were. What's more, team owners have been demanding socialized profits. Free agent players are merely exercising their free market right to play for the highest bidder. So the agents, I guess when you're a free agent, you are not signed to a team, and you're basically trying to see who can give you the best deal. So yeah, you're exercising your right to play for the highest bidder after 5 or 7 years of being required to play for the team that drafted them. Okay, so they drafted first for about 5 years, and then they can be free to choose the teams that they want. Okay, understood. Okay, so they were compelled to play for a team not of their choosing, and then the sports team owners covered in a more critical manner, giving their taxpayer profit. So the team owners are given a subsidized profit, and then but the players have to sign a contract with them for at least 5 years, and then they can choose which team to go to. Okay. On the other hand, if the propaganda is accurate, we'd expect to see neutral or favorable coverage for team owners and more negative for professional athletes. Okay, so I won't go too much into the method. The keywords and phrases examined by the study include greedy athletes, greedy team owners, spoiled athletes, spoiled team owners, selfish, unmotivated, inflated salaries. So they're looking at this information to see which one of those are usually applied to which people. So in terms of keyword search on Google, focusing on inflated and salaries. Most of the hits were inflated athlete salaries, inflated sports tickets, inflated NFL salaries, ticket prices, salaries, and not so much of the team owners. And then if you look at all overpriced. Most of the time, overpriced is overpriced tickets and overpaid professional athletes. For overpaid NFL owners. So if you look at the athletes, the searches on google.com for overpriced professional athletes, it was 29,000. That was just one day, 29,000, about 30,000 hits. And then overpriced NFL athletes or players, 131,000. Overpaid NFL players, 9,000, about 10,000. Overpaid NFL owners, just four for the owners versus all these thousands of these other people. When you look at the term lazy, people are searching for lazy professional athletes, lazy athletes, but in terms of lazy sports team owners, there were very few. So so when you look at the coverage of most sports teams, in terms of the owners and the players, the owners rarely get a mention, and if they do, it's very offhand. But in terms of the players, their salaries, their actions, everything about them is really it's really looked into and dissected, and everybody seems to look at them as if they were spoiled, greedy, lazy, overpriced, and overpaid, whereas the team owners rarely get that those epithets given to them. Okay, so that was the long and short of it. That is the propaganda behind the sports. And as we have seen, most of it is usually focused on the players. It's and to some extent that's understandable, because it is the entertaining aspect of it. You're not going to look at so much at the behind the scenes and what is going on. But what is different, for example, with the owners of these sports teams versus, let's say, the owners in Hollywood, people look at all behind the scenes. People know how much the director is making, not just the actors, but they know about the actors, the directors, the people behind the scenes, and so on. While not everybody gets paid the same, the people who are actually making it, the studios, are also making their money. So everybody makes their money. But in terms of sports, that kind of financial, actually, when you look at it, the sports gets almost the same, similar tax benefits, not exactly the same, but similar tax benefits to things like the church, because they get free tax money and they don't really have to show any profit. They don't have to show their workings and so on, and they get to get paid, get tax-free money, and they don't get to pay any tax. So in that way, it's quite a good deal for them. That's the other thing, because if you're getting money, sometimes, okay, I don't mean to to insult sports people, but if you're a sports person, going to a match, to me, seems okay. I know the experience is important, and being there and physically present and all that, but you're getting the same thing for somebody who's staying at home for free and watching it for free, the comfort of their own homes. Anyway, I don't get that part, but one should imagine that if the taxpayers are already paying for the studio, they're already for the stadium and for the teams to be there and all that sort of thing, you would expect that then the tickets would be free, especially for the people who support their teams. But it's not. So you find that the team owners are profiting in two ways. They're getting money from the taxpayers, through this free benefits. They get to build their stadiums for virtually nothing, and the city gets to pay for it, and the taxpayers pay for it. And then on the other hand, they still charge their sports fans to watch the live shows, or to, even if they watch them at home, I think they still charge them. In fact, one of the reasons why cable was so high was because of sports. Everything else can be recorded, and everything else can be recorded and shown, but it was only sports that requires that whole live performance of it. Except news can be a little bit news has to be live, but not exactly. but it's sports that makes everything go up. It's still expensive. You're still paying for it. It doesn't make any money. It's just there for entertainment. So, in that regard, what is the purpose of sports if you live in a capitalistic society where things are supposed to justify themselves by how much money they make, how much profit, and yet you have this totally almost useless, not useless, oh, I don't mean to offend sports people, but it's something that does not really make that much money. Even in terms of employment, how much really do sports teams employ? Yeah, they are the usual sports people, but and then there's people who maybe do the preparation, the cleanup, the all of that stuff, but in general it's not a big source of employment for a city, and it's something that is happening only once a week or seasonally, so it's not a year-round sort of thing. But in any case, when you look at the perception, because this is what propaganda is, it's merely creating perception, making people view you in a certain light, or view a certain subject in in a certain way. So when you look at how sports is perceived, or how it's propagandized, it is loyalty to a city. It is conformity to a certain ideas or ideals. I don't know, New York fans are supposed to go out and shout about, and in certain slangs, and Californians are supposed to do something. Obviously, you see, I'm not a big sports watcher, so in any case, it brings that loyalty that goes beyond uh, religion or politics or things like that. It's a friendly unity. So I can see the reasons for sports. I'm not completely ignorant of it. But at the same time, it also fuels that energy for people who have, you know, human beings have energy. They have passions and things that they want to do, and sometimes even this need to change society, or sometimes to have something different, or to express one's cheerfulness and so on. It has to have an outlet. People have to have an outlet where they can express themselves and they can get out that energy. And sports for the longest time has been a great way to get the population to be, to calm them down. It rouses them up, but then it calms them down at the same time. So you see sports all across, several cultures practice in different ways. Even the Romans, they had their bloody sports, and their what do they call them? Those people who used to come out and fight. I forget the movie. It was a movie as well, but yeah, those wrestlers who used to come out and fight, or sometimes fight with animals. That stuff is entertaining because it keeps the crowds from rising up. Especially in those days, people, you'd not know what the people would be up to. One time they would be happy, they got some spoils of war, and then the next thing they would be rising up against the emperor of Rome. So in order to keep them quiet, or in order to keep them entertained and distracted, it was necessary for them to have these sports. And in Rome, the bloodier, the better. So for now, the focus was always on the athletes, on their emphasis had been on in modern times, their non-controversial aspect of it. They were only supposed to entertain. They were not supposed to, stir up controversy, or do things even outside of the court or the field, or whatever, or the pitch. Athletes don't really own their lives, so to speak. You have to have that's what they call the morality clause. So unlike musicians who might get into trouble and so on, and go on with their careers, athletes do have to abide by a higher standard of living, of so to speak, because they are a brand. They're associated with a team, so anything that takes away from that takes away from the profits. So they're also expected to not only be away from their families, but also live in a very upright sort of manner. And sometimes they're punished quite highly when they don't when they don't live up to those kinds of expectations. So not only are they, risking their bodies, not only are they putting themselves through dangerous exercises, not only are they away from their families and sometimes in front of amicable, sometimes hostile fans, and they have to be, to have this rigorous schedule. So it's not, when you make it, it's good. They get paid, well. They live good lives financially, but when you look at the whole risk of it, it's not something that everybody can go through. It's not something that is easy. So they do earn that those high salaries that they're paid, but in terms of how they are portrayed in society, most of the time they are shown to be just they were lucky, they had a talent, true, but they were lucky to be where they are, or they're being paid too much. Like the studies were saying that most of the searches, or when people search for NFL, when they use words like selfish or greedy, lazy, overpaid, overpriced, all that, they usually use it on with the athletes, and not considering the owners at all. Because if you're overpaying your employee, for example, that means that you're making a lot of money, that they're actually making quite a lot of profits. But and then he looks at the elite class, the New York Times and so on, who set the agenda. They are the ones who determine, because even yes, it's supposed to be entertainment and so on, but the people who determine what is going to be the headlines in the paper, those are also the propagandists. The first aim of propaganda is to allow not just how something is reported, but what is reported. So the first aspect of that gatekeeping propaganda is the elite classes, the elite press, the New York Times, for example. There's the Harvard Bureau. There's many of them. He just uses the NYT as a epitome of the rest. So the team owner friendly. So when you look at the NYT and those elite papers, they're usually friendly to the team owners. Their perspective of those prestigious papers is they are called the paper of record. They influence the perspective of both the less prestigious publications. So even the not elite, the regular rags, as they call them, even the regular rags still look to the elite papers for the content. They might report it in a different way, or they might uncover different salacious facts and things behind, but they usually also still follow the same format that has been outlined from from above. So even the less prestigious publications and websites also produce. So even when you see a topic going across the internet, you'll almost seem like it's a virus. It goes across, and almost instantaneously, every single people, every single website, every single place, even things that have nothing to do with that that topic, now everybody is jumping on the topic. And this goes for things in sports, things in media, things in places where people would not even have any interest in. People are not even interested in, let's say, in rap music, but somehow everybody there, when there's news in the rap music world, everybody seems to know about it. So this propaganda of content propaganda of content, you can see it going through all areas of society. It permeates everything from education to science to sports. It's like everybody gets a memo, and then you all react to it in your different ways, but you have to react to the same content all over. So in terms of the content, the New York Times, the lead papers, they put out the content, and then they almost like cramps. They give the rest, the less prestigious ones, the cramps, and say, okay, now do with this what you want to do with it, but this is what you're going to eat for today. So as Klein in the back to the reading, notes about the propagandist model in general. The findings in this study do not imply that journalists are consciously favoring team owners over professional athletes, but merely that awareness, perception, and understandings are typically constrained and informed by structures of discourse. That's some academic speak. Yet, paradoxically, Herman argues that this more subtle bias enhances the media's propaganda effects all the more, as the public presumably attaches more credence to the objective reporting of papers like The Times than it does to explicitly ideological sources like Rush Limbaugh and others. So it is incumbent on researchers to use the PM to show how the mainstream media frame issues and events and allow debate only within the parameters of elite perspectives. When ordinary citizens are not aware of their own stake in an issue or are immobilized by effective propaganda, the media will serve elite interests uncompromisingly. So the importance of knowing when you are being propagandized is because sometimes you think that, oh, well, I won't, this is what I think of this subject and so on. But even in thinking of that subject that they're presenting to you, that is also part of the propaganda. For example, if there was a time I think some basketball owner said something, racist about, I can't remember what it was exactly, Silverman or Silverstone or something. So he said something about it, and then people got to know about it, and that was one of the few times that the owner of a team had ever been, the focus had ever been on the owner. Oh, Gladiator, thank you. Thank you, Ndegu Focus. It's Gladiator. Yes, a Gladiator. My vowels are terrible. But yeah, the gladiators used to fight, sometimes to the death, not always, sometimes to the death, but usually in a bloody scene. So, but even in that case, when you look at the old times and the new, the games were usually something that was used to distract, entertain, but also distract the population. And in terms of Rome, the population were being distracted from the various madnesses of the emperors, because all the emperors of Rome were mad. The only one who was not mad was maybe the last one, who eventually split Rome into two empires, the Eastern and the Western. But in any case, all of them were mad, and the senators were greedy, and the people were, the leadership at that time had become, corrupt, and they were fighting amongst themselves. So in order for the plebeians, for the people not to rise up and just go crazy, it was good to direct that energy towards, towards something like sports, and get that all, madness out of the crowd as well. So in terms of basketball, so that Silverman guy, that was a few times that the focus was put on the owner instead of the athletes. But most of the time, the content of sports reporting is, apart from the results, obviously the results is just the skeleton of it. What surrounds it is the plays, the politics, who's going to be signed by who, how much is who making, how much is somebody worth over the other, how many. So apart from just their skills and their talents and the numbers that they have put on the board, the numbers that are being put in their pockets is really being looked at. Imagine being, everybody knowing exactly how much you're making, your money put. That seems almost like an invasion of privacy, because in every other occupation, people don't really get to know how much you're making. But with these sports people, like as soon as they're signed up, everybody knows how much money. It's like when somebody wins the lottery. Some people who are clever, they usually say, no, I don't want to be publicized, my name to be publicized, because everybody's going to come after me. Now imagine, we're just plastering your salary all over the nation and telling everybody, okay, this is how much he earns. Of course, people are going to say that you're earning too much, even if you don't. And in this study, I know that they didn't go in it, with the racial aspect, but we know that if they did the overprice and the selfishness between the black and the white, get the epithets of either being overpaid, being overrated, all that, versus he earned his content. Wow. Just relax. Hello, Gas Jamab. Bari Bwana Haguziki. Yes, the Romans did have modern, they did have gladiator. Thank you. There are no lies on Rome. These are all truths, and we all know it. So the Romans did have they had even worse spectacles. They had bloody spectacles where people, killed each other in various brutal ways. They had animals, savagely killing Christians to death, families being thrown at lions. So it was way, way more bloody and savage than we have right now. Yes. So in terms of propaganda, the content is always going to be focused on the money the athletes are making, and even when it comes to content on athletes, it's not always even just positive things. Their lives are not their own. They're always put to scrutiny. They're expected to live a certain moral code that is not expected of so many people in society. They're almost like politicians without having the power. They're supposed to, and maintain their brand, as they say. So, but none of that is applied to applied to the owners. The owners are actually shielded by, mostly their anonymity. I don't know how much is disclosed about the owners of the different teams, but most of the time you don't really hear too much about them, because the responsibility on keeping the team is usually on the players. So in contrast, the benevolent, this is in the article. So the team owners are usually, in contrast, described as generous. They're described as generous. They're described as, giving back to the community, or giving employment to this mostly disadvantaged youth, and giving them opportunities. So when you look at them, they're not looked at as greedy capitalists, Scrooge McDucks. They're looked at as, almost Father Santa Claus or Father Christmas, and rarely are they even looked at, except if they do something outrageous, like that person who said something racist. I can't remember what he said, and it doesn't really matter, but I'm sure you all remember the thing. And funnily enough, he went through the usual apology circuit, and everybody forgot about it and moved on. Whereas up to now, everybody remembers the scandal with pretty much, every one of those players, from Kobe Bryant to, yeah, that's the only one I remember, because that was in the media and it was really played up a lot. So yeah, the coverage of sports also seems to follow Chomsky's propaganda model, which is just to say that propaganda is usually put in the interests of the ruling classes, to put them in a favorable image, and to make them look as benevolent fathers instead of these dictators. And it always posits the one versus the other. It's usually the elite versus the lazy employees, or the greedy sports athletes. And the spoiled, yes, they like to say that one too. They like to say that they are spoiled when certain athletes probably get to the highest level of their earning capability. They're usually looked at to be, oh, now they're being overpaid. And that's usually, especially for Black athletes. Whereas and even when you look at welfare, you don't seem to think of welfare in terms of what the sports owners are getting, because they're getting welfare from the taxpayers. And this is taxation actually without representation, because people are paying for something that they don't even care about. Yeah, some people are sports fans. Some people in the city may be, sports fans, but not everybody in Los Angeles, for example, is a fan of the Lakers or even cares about them at all. It's only a small percentage. And so everybody is forced to pay these billions of dollars to these leagues, and they're not even, it's not useful for the city. It's not beneficial for individuals, and it's not making a profit. So this is the one instant that we can look away and say, oh no, welfare is okay in this regards because it's being given to the owners, and so people have to pay for them to make money. What? Oh my goodness. Guessed him up. The Romans are okay. I won't get into that argument today, but yeah, what is this Romania? What is it? Is it Romanphilia? Yes, Romanphilia. A love for Rome. And Bonahaguziki, do not believe the lies. The Romans were a brutal people. They were a group of very vicious and bloodthirsty militaristic group. Of people being in a cage and fighting to the death and being, released to be eaten by animals. So, Bonahaguziki says they love to mention how much the black men labor force are making to put a target on their back, making poor whites target them instead of the. Okay, let me read that slowly. Okay, they love to mention how the black men, the labor force, are making, how much the black men are making to put. Oh, okay, I get it. Yes, so they say that because the black men in the NFL are making so much money that they're putting a target on their backs, and it makes poor whites target them instead of the owners. Well, like I said, even with the disclosure of the salaries, I suppose it's tradition now, but it's just a strange thing that, and I know this happens in all sports across the world, but being a sports athlete is the only one of the few jobs that your salary is disclosed to everybody. Like how much money you're making, everybody knows how much money you're making. So, at least lottery winners have the choice to say, no, I don't want my earnings to be disclosed. But, for them, they literally have their bank account in full view. Well, at least the starting balance. So, it's not already by telling the whole world how much they're making. That's already a target on their back, not just by poor whites, I would imagine, but poor blacks as well. If you have some money, people will come to you. People will, open hands will be there, and mouths to feed and all that sort of thing. So once you let the world know that these people are making a lot of money, we are paying them a lot of money, you're already targeting them. So yeah, and I mean, you don't really need to give poor whites a reason to target you, but that's just an extra thing that they do. So unfortunately, that also comes with the territory. So yes, the Romans had modern day spectacles. Let me correct a few historical inaccuracies there. Yes. Habari Bwana Haguziki, mzuri sana. Mzuri is good. Bread and circus, the gladiators were they paid in? Yes, I guess they were paid in women, food, and death. Death eventually, because however long you're going to fight, you're going to die eventually. So however they were paid in death eventually, but they were given better food than some of the poorer people. Brother Bakari says at Gasdema, stop lying and keeping for white folks. Rome had people fighting in Coliseum, fighting lions and tigers. Exactly, Brother Bakari. How much did they charge for Roman gladiator event? That I don't know, but I know that they might have been free, because at that time the emperors were just looking to distract them. I don't think that they would have charged them, but they might have paid something. I don't know. Brother Bakari, Romans ain't white, race don't exist, show me the white gene. Okay, for more of that, I'll refer you to the discussion we had with Gus Demap on the black pentagrammers. So I believe that I addressed all and more of those points. Yes, modern day interpretations of Rome, bride and circus. Romans did not have a circus. Yes, well, they did have a circus. Yes, they did have a circus. So, okay, so yes, they love to mention how much black men are making. The idea of the circus. Well, they didn't have an 18th century circus. They had a circus-like thing. They had their version of a circus. Obviously, you can't say that, they built an 18th century circus, because they wouldn't do that. They would build a Roman circus, just like they wouldn't have modern music. They would have Roman music. Romans did not have a traveling band of performers. Well, they still had music. I don't know if they had a traveling band of performers. They probably did because as well. Yes, I do agree. I agree with that. Okay. What do we not know? We do not know the salary of presidents. Oh, do we know? Do we know this? Oh, okay. Yes. I guess it's not just athletes. We do know the salaries of politicians as well. So, I am correct. I am corrected on that one. So yes. So we know the salaries of presidents, public officials, CEOs, and but I did say earlier that that athletes, we know their salary, but they have no power. You know, at least the rest of these people that we know their salaries, presidents, public officials, and CEOs, we know their salaries, but at the same time, we know that they have a certain kind of power. With athletes, once we know how much they make, that's where their power ends, unless it's just in that financial aspect of it. But I would say that if you're going to disclose your salary, you should be a public official and not just, a public entertainer. So yes, yes, that and yeah, it does create jealousy and envy. But the interesting thing, which is surprising to me, is that even though people know that, for example, Shaquille and all these people make pretty good money, why don't people? Why isn't the target on their back as hot as for, say, these rappers? Because if it's just a matter of money, then why don't these murderers or whoever go after their athletes? Exactly. You wouldn't even need to know, the pin and know where somebody was eating waffles or whatever. You know exactly. Oh my goodness. Let me not put, ideas into the ether right there. But yeah, it does create jealousy and all that. And luckily the athletes have not gotten the same kind of targeting on their backs. So you guys don't add things up. What are we not adding up? Let us see. If you spend money to build up a gladiator, why would you kill them? Well, you would not kill them immediately. Like I said, they would give them food, they would give them a good life, they would give them all these kinds of luxuries when they were performing, when they were good and when they're popular with the crowd. But that sort of activity, it does take a wear on the body, just like with athletes and that people in that area. Sports only has a lifetime, uh, a playing time of what, maybe 10 years or something like that, but most of the time it's not a lifetime thing. So once you play and you're good, you're past your prime, then of course the team will want to get rid of you, and of course the emperor would want to kill you and get rid of you at the time. So yes, after you spend money to build a gladiator and they make you money and they're no longer making the money, then yes, you would definitely kill them. When people mention the circus is just a modern parlance for the gladiator arena, meaning a public spectacle. Exactly, Bona Haguziki, exactly. That is why you all are not adding things up. Okay, okay. With the look, should we look this up? I don't have my stuff right now, but I just explained to you, killing. How would it be wise to keep a gladiator who was already past his prime? After you have fed him, after you have done all this, it doesn't make any sense for you to still kill him. You're not going to kill him immediately. You're going to kill him after the investment pays off and is no longer worth it. So that is the time. Gastino says, Buona, you are incorrect. That is a lie. Circus refers to a traveling band of performers. Well, how are you to know that Romans didn't have a traveling band of performers? They had several cities and outposts, and so to connect them, why wouldn't there be a traveling band of performers going from one place to another? And we know that there was. What was the lifespan of the average gladiator? Okay, okay, now we're talking gladiators. Yes, the lifestyle of an average, I would say maybe 40 years old, but I'm not sure. I can look it up real quick. If you do want to, you know, if you want to hop on, you are more than welcome. Circus meant something different too. Okay, let me take a minute to just Google my friend and say, how long was the lifespan of gladiators? My guess would be around maybe 30 to maybe 40, depending on how good they were. I would say that they were probably there for 40, you know, up to 40. And then after that, when they were no longer useful, then, you know, they would be gotten rid of, or they would meet their death in the cage or the place. So Wikipedia, which is a good friend, okay, fine. How many arenas did the Romans have? Wow, you really are obsessed with Rome, aren't you? Like every road, every intellectual road leads back to Rome. Okay, if they travel, then how many arenas did they travel to? Okay, are you just disagreeing about the numbers or the fact that it happened? Because I didn't put an exact number on it. So Wikipedia says, let me see if I can share. So I am not making things up. Let me share the Wikipedia screen and we shall learn together. Okay, so a gladiator, Latin gladiator, swordsman, from gladius, sword, was an armed combatant who entertained audience in the Roman Republic and Roman Empire in violent confrontations with other gladiators, wild animals, and condemned criminals. Some gladiators were volunteers who risked their lives and their legal and social standing by appearing in the arena. Most were despised as slaves, schooled under harsh conditions, socially marginalized, and segregated even in death. Irrespective of their origins, gladiators often offered spectators an example of Rome's martial ethics, and in fighting or dying well, they could inspire, so on and so forth. They were celebrated, and their values and entertainers was commemorated and in precious and commonplace objects throughout the Roman world. The origin of gladiatorial combat is open to debate. There is evidence of it in funeral rites during the Punic Wars of the 3rd century BC, and thereafter it spread rapidly and became an essential feature of politics and social life in the Roman world. Its popularity led to its use in ever more lavish and costly games. So does that at least let you know that you know that gladiator and gladiatorial life was well and active in Rome? Do we need to read more? Amani Keta. Yes, we're back to Rome, funnily enough. Okay, so now gladiators have been put to rest, let us say, and yeah, so that was definitely a thing. So now we're going to talk about the Romans and the circus. Okay, Romans and circus. Okay, we'll go down that route. Roman circus. Sorry. You know this. Okay, Roman circus. There you go. The Roman circus, from the Latin word that means circle, was a large open-air venue used for public events in the ancient Roman Empire. The circuses were similar to the ancient Greek hippodromes, although circuses served varying purposes and differed in design and construction. Along with theaters, amphitheaters, and the similar but much smaller stadiums, circuses were one of the main entertainment sites of the time. Circuses were venues for chariot races, horse races, gladiatorial combat, and performances that commemorated important events of the empire were performed there. According to Edward Gibbon in chapter something something, the history of the decline of the Roman Empire, the Roman people at the start of the 5th century still considered the circus as their home, their temple, and the seat of the republic. Okay. Yes, that's Wikipedia. Okay. Yes, read more Wikipedia. Okay. What's next? Open air venue and the traveling circus as we see them today. Well, you Just them up, you wouldn't have anything as you see today. You're trying to recreate the modern world, in the past. You want, oh, Romans didn't build buildings. Show me the skyscrapers that they built. Well, they didn't build buildings like we do today, but they built their own versions of buildings. So they didn't have the circus like we do today. They don't have stadiums like we do today, but they had their own versions of stadiums. So yeah, they let's see if they had a traveling circus, if that's the contention now, Roman traveling circus, because so far everything that I said or that we know has been shown to be there, Yes, so there was a circus and there was gladiators in the circus. Now, whether or not they had traveling circuses, I don't know. But well, yes, I am comparing them in the fact that they, similar to the gladiators, they have their bodies used up, and then they're not, killed, but they're sort of thrown away, like in the old, with the gladiators. Do you not see the analogy there? So wasn't Rome a huge slave-holding society? Yes, Rome was a huge slave-holding society, but I'm sure Gastemap will say, will disagree with that. I was comparing Ishak and Kiri. It's not a one-on-one comparison. About firstly the effect of the the life of the gladiator and the life of the of the athlete, and when he talks about the propaganda of looking at the athlete as an egotistic, selfish, spoiled, unmotivated person, whereas the owner is usually not even mentioned, or usually mentioned in only positive terms, similar to the empire, who was only mentioned in good terms to the people, so that to take away focus from some of the excesses, not excesses, those were the habits of the Roman elite. So the games are used as a distraction, and the gladiators in Rome, the main difference in Rome is the level of brutality and savagery and bloodthirstiness of the audience, versus in real life, where even if you look at boxing is still a very violent sport, but in terms of, it's not fight to the death, so to speak. So whereas in gladiatorial combats, it could lead to death. Not always, like I said, but there were times when it could lead to death. So, there's a former footballer says, I think it's really madness to risk your body, your well-being, and your happiness for money. Well, at least the modern day gladiators, so to speak, are doing it for money, and not just well, what were they doing for money, for women and for food in the old days? And he adds, once you tear away the illusions of it, it's hard work and it's dangerous work, and you're away from your family. It's very tough on families. Sentiments that would characterize any number of professional sports. So not only is it a big is it a lot of work? It's dangerous, but there's also risk of injuries, not just during play, but even afterwards. In the NFL, they have had instances of concussion effects years and years after after somebody was playing, and some of them even have mental effects due to concussions and other things. So it does take a great toll on their bodies, on their physique, on their mental ability, and it takes a toll on their families as well. So similarly to gladiators, gladiators were schooled. They were not, when they reached that aspect of the height of their profession, it's not that they were some privileged working out in the gym sort of thing. They were taken to these schools where a lot of them died during training, and it was harsh training. So when they got to the field, it was not this cakewalk. It was actually very brutal and harsh. And so, and even them, while they were fed the best food and given they were given a lot of admiration, and were given basically good food. They had their choice of women. They were popular and they were loved. That sort of lifestyle could only last so far, because they still had to go in the ring and fight, and that took a toll on their bodies, and eventually they wouldn't be able to perform for forever. That's just natural biology. And if they're no longer useful, they would either, I don't think they had a sweet retirement package for them. They would probably either just be killed in the ring, or they would be retired. So either way, it was not a good way to go. Okay, so here we go. Welcome.
Listen, I'm not gonna welcome. I'm not gonna stay too long. I don't want to belabor the point of Romans. Here's the problem: you people, I include you, will say, "Oh, well, modern world is just like the Romans, bred in circus to distract us. Look at the athletes treated like Romans." Then I ask you, okay, show me the Roman equivalent of A. Oh, no, 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 no. You're trying to project them. You're the one that don't. My thing is, don't make a comparison if you're not ready to give me examples that I ask for. If you're going to say that Shaq and Kyrie and these athletes are like modern day Romans, blah, 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 then when I ask for clear, concrete examples, don't backtrack when you can't find them. You can just simply say, oh, it doesn't exist. Or my example is a little bit more nuanced. It's based on this. It's not a clear cut, direct example. I was just saying that if I juxtapose it, right, as opposed to definitively departing from a point that you guys know you can't fully back up. That's one. Two, when you're talking about the so-called Romans, we already explored this on the Black Pentagram show. The majority of the Roman Empire, right, the population, did every part have a Colosseum that people were in fighting? No. Right, the Colosseum is located where? Where were how many Colosseums? First off, how many Colosseums did Rome have?
They had one, but one major one.
Okay, so hold on. Wait.
Well,
hold on. Wait. They had one major one, and that was the cream of the crop. Now, if that's the case, that's why I was asking you, because the concept of circus. No, I said the concept of the Roman. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
The Roman circus. Of course, the word circus goes back to Rome, but the concept of circus as we know it, if I took a fifth grader and said circus, they would think traveling band of performers. That is an 18th century European invention. Has nothing to do with the Roman conception of a circus. Got to understand that these Europeans stole a lot of things from Rome because they are not Romans. I've already proved that. You can, again, check out the episode on the Black Pentagrams. They have nothing to do with Rome. These are the barbarians who learned about Rome after they were reintroduced to it by the Moors. So it's called the so-called reintroductions. They claim they were in the Dark Ages, right? They were never in the Dark Ages. We proved that already. So now these Romans, these Europeans take Roman concepts, take Roman things, take Roman ideologies, and then they're just appropriating for themselves. So they've always had a history of cultural appropriation, of doing this. So you can't find a concept of the circus as we know it in Rome. Now, if there's one large Colosseum and as Cato was saying, oh, large slave population. Sure, I'll give you that. But then if that's the case, who were they distracting if only land only males could vote? You see, like we don't think these things through. Who would I be distracting if the majority of men who could vote in the Senate were too elite to even want to go? I mean, they probably did enjoy a spectacle here and there, but those spectacles weren't to distract the land, to distract the voters, because who were the people who could vote in Roman society? Land only males, the males patriarchs, right? The patriarchs of the family. These were the ones who voted for people in the Senate. Women didn't have a right to vote. Slaves didn't have a right to vote. Non-Romans didn't have a right to vote, right? So again, and keep in mind that the Roman population or the Roman Empire stretched from what we call Britannia. It touched parts of West Africa, went into Asia, and it encompassed a large span of what we call Europe today. So who would they be distracting? They didn't have Channel 5 News where you could just quickly turn on your TV and know that Spartacus Malabagus beat the crap out of, Tanzanius Lamambidus, the Kenyan. You couldn't watch the replay on WWE satellite TV an hour later. So when we say these things, oh, it's done to distract the people, what are we talking about? But that's what I wanted to let you hear.
Okay, in terms of your first question about the examples, I have given you the analogous examples in terms of the lives that the gladiators led. You say that if Shark was used like a Roman, he would be dead. Well, yes, he would have been dead, because in those times there was no retirement plan. And actually, a lot of the ex-NFL players who the life of a sports person, even now, it's relatively brief, especially if they had a long career. So a lot of NFL players, ex-players, they die from complications, physical problems, and so on. So the death does come later. And similarly with gladiators, they had a hard life, or they had a hard performing side. They would, when they were no longer useful, then they would be dead. So there's the comparison in the life, in the the toll on the body, in the expendable nature of the of the
Then
game.
say that and don't be vague with what you guys are saying. I hope you see where I'm coming from and why I'm pushing back. What you said, no arguments. But what you people say earlier is like this parallel. And then when I try to hold you to the parallel and say, okay, well, let's see these examples, then it's like, no, it's not the way, So that's the first point. Cool, no beef. Can you address the second point?
Okay, the second point about who were they distracting. Well, in those days, it's not, voting. Like you said, a very small amount of the population was actually, was able to vote and make decisions about the government. The people they were trying to distract, and the fear of the elites and the Senate and all that, was the uprising of the people. Not so much the slaves, but the proletariats, or the plebeians, or the people just below, who had some sort of rights, but not the right to vote, and others. So when these people did not have
Wait, hold on. So in Roman society, what you had citizens, and you had what else?
the plebs, the plebeians.
Okay.
Yes, and then you had the slaves.
Okay.
Yes.
So a pleb. How long? What was the status of a pleb? How long did one stay a plebeian?
The stage, well, they were not slaves, but they had, they could choose the employment, or leave, and things like that. So they were not entirely slaves, but they were not they did not have, they were not landowners either. They were mostly laborers, workers, menial workers, the underclasses of society. So not so just a class above the slaves.
So again, keep in mind, because you guys are not specific. Remember what was said earlier was bread and circuses, right? No one's
Mhm.
debating what you're saying now, but what was bread and circus is to distract the population from what the Roman elite were doing. But again, when I now press you with the specifics and say, well, wait a minute, if only land only men could vote, who were they distracting? Why were they distracting? So now you can give me a plausible understand. Oh, well, they were distracting these populations to stop them from uprising. And again, if there's only one main coliseum, then how many people within the entire span of the Roman Empire are they distracting? Because they didn't have network news to produce or rebroadcast something that happened on Thursday so that the entire Roman Empire could see it by Friday.
Well, the news did not travel as quick as that. In fact, that the marathon runner, was remembered because he took the news from, I think Greece to marathon in 2 weeks or something short like that. So in
And he
those times,
died. Don't
yes,
forget that part. After the
yes,
marathon, he fainted, passed out, and was never revived again.
yes, died doing his job. But yes, he did. So, yes, there was only one or two coliseums. That was the major one. But even if you look at what we read earlier, yes, it's Wikipedia, but we can look at more sources. But it says that the circuses were similar to the ancient Greek hippodromes, although circuses served various purposes. Along with the theaters, amphitheaters, and the similar but much smaller stadiums, circuses were one of the main entertainment sites of the time. So it was not just one. They had many different venues of entertainment. They had, the theaters. So there was many places where people could go for entertainment, for, socialization, and for the dissemination of information.
But
So
your premise was that, don't you ain't gonna weasel out of this one. Your initial premise, like most of you guys, was that oh, the Romans, as if that they had this Washington D.C. Pentagon, put out leaflets that said distract the people so we could do A, B, and C. Now you're trying to still scale back, right? You see what you're doing with the argument.
now you're trying to
Okay.
modern it. I never said anything about how they were doing it in DC, doing it like that in Rome. I said that the distraction was there, but it was done in a different way and in a bloodier way than it's done now. Now it's done, simply by information, and you can have that information quickly.
But if you only have one main
In,
coliseum and you just mentioned that it wasn't only for bloodthirsty, right? Because that's what you just read. You said
Mhm.
circuses served varying purposes, differed in design and construction, along with theaters, amphitheaters, and smaller stadiums. They were one of the main entertainment sites. You could go there for a chariot race, a horse race, gladiatorial, and other things. But again, when people look at Romans, like, yeah, the Romans, bread and circus, they were doing the same thing. No, the Romans were not the Democratic National Committee. The Romans were not the Republican Party. What these people are doing today is psychotic stuff. I'm just trying to say the Romans ain't perfect, but the Romans sure ain't these people. And I feel bad that you guys keep painting the Romans with the same brush you paint George Bush with. When in fact, if a Roman would come back to life, he probably would say, why is George Bush not fetching my water, this goddamn Thracian?
and why aren't the boxers killing each other in the ring? That's
Boxers
what
do kill each other in the ring. What are you talking about? Have you heard of Eddie? Have you heard of Do Kim Young and Boom Boom Mancini?
are those real
Yeah, Boom
people?
Boom Mancini. He died in the ring. Yeah, no, that's not funny. The guy died in the ring. That was
Oh,
his name.
sorry.
The Italian boxer Boom Boom Mancini. He boxed a dude. Have you heard of Resto, Louis Resto, and Billy Collins Jr. died in the ring? Resto took off. He was working with Panama Louis. Boxers die in the ring. There was a recent. I forgot the guy's name. He died in the ring. Boxers actually one of the most brutal sports. Boxers suffer brain damage, all kind of things. Gerald McClellan went and fought Nigel Benn in the UK. Got punched in the head. He was in a wheelchair. Has never been the same since. He's slurring his speech. So no, boxers die. I don't know what you're talking about. Boxers don't die. It's one of the most brutal sports there lives. Football players walking around halfway retarded after the game. They're repeating sentences 5 times. They wake up on Thursday, think it's Sunday, go to church, wonder why nobody's in service. But look, we're not talking about boxers and that. I'm just trying to point out that, look, when we make these comparisons, I just think we need to be specific and careful because it's just it's lazy analysis in my opinion. This is my opinion, and I think that it is along the lines of the 1970s, 1960s information that we got from people like Dr. Clark and Ivan Van Sertima. Brilliant men, but let's let them go already. Their information is dated. We can look back at some of the information to revamp things, but it's 2022. You got Wikipedia, you got Google, you got JSTOR, you got all kind of databases that they didn't have access to. Why the hell are we still referencing books from our luminaries in 1934, 1957, 1968? What is wrong with us? But with that, I don't want to take.
The same reason you reference ain't
Oh,
nobody black and white because of what happened 5,000 years ago. It's a timestamp on whatever black people do. But he want to take you back 5,000 years and talk about what nobody black and white. We can talk about books that black people wrote in the 40s, 50s, 60s if we choose. But you want to go back 5,000 years. And it is a comparison. They play sports in the Coliseum. The same thing, all the cheering in the run. It was a distraction from everybody. What they were distracting from, I don't know, because I ain't trying to be Roman like you. But but everybody may have not been there, but they could hear the roaring. Everybody knew when there was going to be a fight, they fighting the beast, a lion or a tiger.
I don't know what you're saying. I mean, you just basically said that because somebody heard a lion roar, that people would stop what they're doing. So are you telling me that an ambulance driver right now is going to stop what he's doing because he heard Steph Curry hit a 3-point shot, or because Alabama scored a touchdown?
See, now you playing dumb, and and now that's what you're doing, right? Now you being lazy, right? What you just told Tanzania, you being lazy. Because of course not nobody is going to stop because somebody hit a shot. Like you say, we in different times, right? So of course you don't think the Coliseum and all they're fighting, someone fighting the beast, just like sports can be used today for a distraction. Sports could be used back then for a distraction. No, the news
I'm
didn't
saying
travel.
that if the Romans didn't tell you that, then don't say that.
Why not? The Romans didn't tell me, they didn't say they were white, but you told me they did. I never
The
read
Romans
that.
never
They
said
never
they were
said.
white. When did you hear a Roman tell you that they were white?
I never heard them say that they wouldn't. Wouldn't was not white, but you say that they say they're not. But you say they're not. You see how that works?
No, I no
So,
no 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 no. What I said
but I
was
can, but I can show you because you said
you
Greeks,
guys
but
tell
you
me
say
that
Greeks,
the Romans are white. I'm telling you
and
guys that the Romans can't be white.
uh, and you said neither the Greeks nor the Romans were right, and you say we should get off this black and white stuff because it's modern. Let's go back 5,000 years ago. The only problem you have is with black people referencing black people, and you have problems with black people. You don't have a
I'm still trying to
problem with
understand why the discourse
black
of whiteness. That you have to understand, brother Bakari, the discourse of whiteness is a modern day invention. Do you disagree with that?
Okay, absolutely disagree. I absolutely disagree. Because I also sent the paper to Tanzania, where Greek back in the 2nd century was calling it black and white. This is not a modern day thing. But if it is a modern day thing, right? We live it now. But you want us to forget this modern day thing. But let's
No.
forget
That's where
this.
you're wrong. I never said anybody should forget that we live. No, that you see, that's the problem. That's what you guys are interpreting. No one is telling you that if you go into the middle of, let's say, Montgomery, or if you go down into Birmingham and you by Jefferson County somewhere, that you run into some racist rednecks, that you ain't black. Of course, what I'm saying is this: is that we shouldn't take our modern day existence and project it backwards. That's the mistake that we do. So we look at the modern world with a messed up lens. We use because like you just said, we're living in today's times. I can't use today's times to justify a conclusion about people who lived 1,000 years ago if they didn't have the concepts that we're talking about today.
Phone
Well,
went out.
I say this, that I think somebody has a. So, but Bakari, I'll mute you for a second. I think you have an echo. For me, I say this, that it's not my hill is not that Romans are white, which I definitely think they are. I know they are, but it's to put distance between Rome and Africa. That's my whole contention about that. But in terms of Rome, I wouldn't want to, to even claim that civilization, because they did have. You're making a comparison between, the European forms of practicing their whiteness versus the the Roman empire of its, is superiority, because they also felt superior in their own way, except they determined their superiority in terms of, Roman citizenship. But in terms of practices, the practices are very similar. They had slavery, they had, debauchery, they had,
Egyptians had, the Nubians were slaves to the Egyptians.
Yes, but they didn't practice the sorts of things that the Romans did with their, they didn't practice slavery the way the Romans did. The Roman type of slavery is very similar to the American one in terms of practice, not in terms of race, but in terms of practices.
How?
The way they
show me the Roman equivalent of the Willie Lynch. But look, I don't want us to get caught up in Rome, because I didn't come here to get caught up in Rome. No. The problem is leave the Romans alone. That's my beef. Stop bothering. Look, you could have had. Obviously, do whatever you look. Listen.
That's my question.
No. Listen, you're a grown person. You could do whatever you want. But what I'm saying is, you could have had this entire conversation about the intricacies of, the psychological manipulations and all these kind of things that are done to modern day African or Black sports entertainers today, right? From people throwing bananas on the football players in Italy, to the Black men having to wear dresses, and all kind of buffoonery that is occurring, to them painting Serena Williams as manly and things of that nature, right? You could have done that and we could have had a great conversation, but why is it that whenever everybody always got to sprinkle the Romans in it, then when I start pressing on specifications of this false Roman, juxtaposition, then everybody gets mad, like, oh, no. Look, can't we just let these people who have messed up the world enjoy who they are without including others?
Okay. But we're also still allowed to make historical analogies. And
no one's saying that you shouldn't. That's a great thing. But see, look at what Kata just said, right?
I do agree with him, and Keta, I do take that back. I can't say that the American slavery was exactly like Rome's. So in that aspect, I say no. But I would say this, that the Romans were also very brutal in the way that they practiced their slavery, and also in terms of the way they treated their prisoners of war and their slaves.
So was Genghis Khan. So were the Mayans. So was everybody was brutal. It's a different era back then. Like, I'm just, because then if that's the case, then how do you ever escape this? If it's all the same, if a cookie is a Puerto Rican and a Puerto Rican is a Babalao and a Babalao is a lesbian, how do you ever escape the Western system of hegemony? Then you never escape it. There's no delineation.
And that's the delineation is whether it's African or not. I don't think that.
But the Africans were doing the same thing in many instances in the old world. That's what I'm trying to say. There's no delineation. To me, look, I'll say this since it's not go, because I don't want to take over the show. But look, the real issue is that in the West, starting from the Renaissance period, you start to see a discourse, and you start to see technologies arise out of that discourse. You have actual, practical technologies and social technologies that arise out of that discourse. And this is what they've used to take over the world. They've arranged things, right? This is where Foucault comes in very handy when he talks about the order of things. And that's what we should be combating. Not whether the Romans chopped off, some guy's foot, or Genghis Khan slept with 30 women, or Shaka Zulu's penis was down to his kneecaps and he was banging all them big booty Zulu chicks. That is a normal happenstance of everywhere around the world. What's not normal is the discourse on race and the technologies that you are able to affect the world with this concept of race. What's not normal is the organizing of human beings into these categories. What's not normal is statistics, the application of mathematics and numerology on human existence. What's not normal is a population census, right? When Herod allegedly in the Bible wanted to take a population census, people ran away. Not normal, dude. What are you trying to do?
Okay. See,
tell me if it's wrong. You tell me what's right. So are you saying that basically, because that's why I'm asking. Then there's no delineation. Then we might as well never complain. We might as well just continue
living between that and if there's no delineation between Rome and Africa, then there's none between Rome and America either. Because when you talk about
no, I'm not talking about. Hold on, wait. The word delineation. I'm not talking about delineate between Rome and Africa. You're just caught up with Rome and Africa, and that's great for whatever reason. I'm talking about the old world and the modern world. I don't care nothing about Rome and Africa. That's beautiful. You don't like Rome? Great. I'll send you a cookie for not liking Rome. What I'm telling you is, who cares about Rome? What I'm pointing out to you is that there's a delineation between the old world. For example, when Foucault talks about sex, you have ars erotica, so you can look at the Kama Sutra. You can look at how the Japanese viewed sex. No one was calling sex talk dirty to me. Then you can look at how the European discourse creates sex, ars scientifica, where sex is now reduced to these again, the principles of statistics, mathematical numerology applied to human life. This is strange. This is what we should be fighting, in my opinion. This is what creates the discourse where you can look at like Jeremy Bentham, pleasure pain principle, and what they're doing to our modern day athletes. That's where the problem lies. I'm not, focused on the Romans and these things. So when you guys give those examples, that's why I cringe, because it's like, then there's no difference. I'm just trying to say, do you understand the difference between the old world and the modern? And I think the modern, in my opinion, starts at Europe, the discourse in Europe, where they start creating these discourses. And then they start affecting technologies on these discourses that allow them to have the world hegemony that they have today. For me, if we can't acknowledge that that's where the problem lies, then we'll never escape anything. Then we'll just run into this so-called, we're going to be blackity black and keep it black. But like I just said, the Egyptians was kicking the Nubians' ass. But again, the Egyptians didn't have a discourse on race. So I'm not happy that they kicked the Nubians' ass. But hey, Nubians, get some better guns, learn how to fight.
Well, I'm saying this. The more you say about, the Americans and, the way it started, I don't dispute that there was, a spark of renewal of, this new destructive element. But I would say that it started before that. They were just coping, and that's why they want so badly to attach themselves to Rome, because they were following the principles from Rome. They were looking at Rome. They were the Senate, the American Senate was modeled after the Roman Senate and the government, legislature, and so on. So the reason why they had to look to Rome is because they didn't have anything of their own. So I'm saying that they were not exactly, reinventing the wheel. They were just taking what Rome had and then putting the racial marker on it. So,
but Rome that's what I'm saying is the problem. And I think and that's why Black studies and what we're doing in terms of blackness, it turns into the cul-de-sac. We'll never escape it. If you're saying that what they're doing is still Roman rewashing, then we might as well not complain. Might as well just accept it and embrace it. Resistance is futile. Might as well just enjoy it and embrace it. Let's all throw away being black and just accept, that they've won.
No, quite the opposite. It's realizing and affirming your blackness. In that is what
But your
creates.
blackness is not going to defeat the discourses that put us in subjectivity that we are right now. You can scream Black Shaka Zulu, chant and drum all you want. That's not going to help you escape the discourse that we're under, the linguistic problems that we're under, and the technologies that they create to enforce their linguistic control. Blackness ain't going to help us escape that. Because as a matter of fact, blackness comes from them.
Well, if we are going to operate in their system, then we are forced, to acknowledge the blackness that is on us. So it's still part of who we are as people, but it's also the rules that we have been put under.
And no one is debating that, Tam. But what I'm saying is, at least ideologically and philosophically, one can envision a world where you're no longer under that.
Yes, if we had
No, wait. So basically you're saying that until we get the material existence of not living in that world, then we can. But keep in mind, what comes first? Is it the idea, or is it the effects of the idea?
I think it's the idea.
Of course. So then let's envision and create ideas of us not having blackness, of us having a world where we bypass these discourses that they've put us under. So when we start creating those worlds, like Stan Lee would create the Marvel universe, now people can say, oh, well, that's something we can point to as a frame of escaping. Now we have something that we can push forward. But if we're stuck, like you just said, oh, it's forced upon us. It's been forced upon us, blackness, so we got to go with it. Okay, cool. In the mechanical system of things, yeah, sure, we got to accept blackness. No one's fighting that. But at least let's intellectually engage outside of these things. So I said all that to say, because allegedly I'm, perhaps Cato is right? But I said all that to say, can we leave the Romans alone? Can we leave the Greek alone? And can we focus on the real enemy at hand? The real enemy at hand are the people who created the discourses that we are stuck with today. It ain't the Romans. It ain't the Greeks. As much as we want to assume, oh yeah, it's just a rehashing. Because then, I'm just being honest, if it's just a rehashing of what the Romans or the Greeks allegedly did, then there's no point in complaining. Then it's just the old world.
Well, I'm sure if we were under the Roman and the Greek system, we'd still be complaining. I wouldn't
be complaining, because I'd be a Roman citizen. You'd be one of the plebes. You'd be a booty scratching Kenyan. I'd send you to go to market for me. I don't know about you. I'd be a citizen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you're a secret elite. Yeah, no.
I'm fine with that. Listen, listen, I'll be a secret elite. Listen, look. But here's the difference. You have the opportunity to do that, right? Go and try and join the Illuminati and see what they tell you.
Well, no. Even if I was in the old world, I would still want to be in Africa rather than in Greece or Rome. So I would still be fighting to go back to Africa. So,
but 9 out of 10, you would be in Africa.
But not under the Rome or Greek system.
Yes, you would.
We were under
the Romans. Oh my God, you guys don't know what y'all talking about. The Romans were not. Hold on, listen. The Romans were not taking people off their land and moving them to Rome.
They were doing exactly that. They were taking them.
No, nobody was taking. The Romans. Listen, you got to read these things deeper. Look, there's a great book you can read by Shlomo Sand. I don't want to talk about the people he talks about, because these are the people you can't mention.
Yes.
Go and Google Shlomo Sand. He's from that country in the Middle East that you can't mention. He's a historian there. He broke down the whole history. The Romans could not. They didn't remember. Mass movement is an 18th century concept. We talked about this, right? From peasants to Frenchmen, where they start inventing the steam engine. That's how you can now start moving people in mass. How are you going to move people in mass? And then where are you moving them to? You're going to move everybody to Rome? You're going to move all the Romans from Egypt, from Turkey, from parts of India. So you're just going to grab them and move them. Do you know how long it would take for long distance travel in those days?
Recruit them into your military force, like the
No,
Roman
Tim,
force.
hold on, time out. No. What you're saying, there's a difference between recruiting males into your military force. There's a difference between that and what you just described. Because I said, oh, if you were in Africa and the Romans had their way, they would grab you and bring you to Rome. No, they wouldn't. They don't want you in Rome. The Roman system was simple. They take some of your males to be in their army. They wanted tax tribute, and that was it. And of course, some big booty women that they can enjoy. That was it. The Romans didn't bother you.
Wow. They were not these nice, peaceful people that you seem to describe. If you couldn't pay the tribute, or if they were in a bad mood, they would actually take a lot of slaves back to their countries, and they would use those slaves. And they would, the Romans actually had slaves that they took amongst the people that they fought.
So Buana in the chat quickly says escapism. No, Buana, no one is talking about escapism. But that was an interesting position that you ran to. The point is that, no, it's interesting because what they did, they sat down there, they're philosophers, right? You can look at Immanuel Kant and his idea of Kantian universalism. They sat down there and created a world hegemony, as Cato is talking about, that they put into practice. Yet when I challenge Black people and Black intellectuals, hey, listen, yeah, we live in the modern world. We got to pay taxes. We got to, have Black business and dance the Black dance. Sure. But can we at least intellectually put our minds together to create something for the books? So that way our futures can read those things just the same way that these Europeans read Immanuel Kant and put it into practice? Or are we just going to always be, 10 steps behind the Mzungu? Because while we're sitting down here talking about gold is money, these people are sitting down there creating digital currencies for their central with their central banks. So by the time now the dollar is a digital currency, we'll still be sitting there talking about I got gold, and the world has moved past us. Like, are we on drugs or what? And it's sad it's the intellectual class that's doing this. But Tan, again, your argument about the Romans taking you from Kenya doesn't add up. Because if that was the case, then you saw the populations of Roman citizens and Roman people outside of the Roman, where Rome, the capital, was. Millions of people in Alexandria, millions of people in Turkey, millions of people in different parts of the Roman Empire. Why didn't they just grab them and drag them over to Rome? That was why your comparison of Roman slavery to modern day slavery, it's not adding up. Modern day slavery in the West is displacement of people. Millions of people displaced. Show me the millions of people that the Romans displaced.
Well, they did take, large swaths of people when they went raiding into, the countryside. They decimated lots of villages. They burnt down a lot of, people. So they destroyed them in their own places. Some of them, yes, they left them standing and paying tribute, but the Romans were also responsible for, for decimating.
But so did Egypt. Like, this is what I'm trying to tell you, Tan, and that's why I'm saying the fight is not in the violence.
Egypt took slaves from Nubia, but Nubia was still standing.
So are you going to tell me? No. You see what you're trying to do? You're trying to create this noble, savage, noble Black nonsense. Are you telling me that Egypt didn't wipe out entire places? That the Egyptian army didn't wipe out people that we probably never heard of that were Black too? Genghis
Not
Khan wiped out
Africa,
people.
no.
Shaka
No,
Zulu wiped out people. The Benin army wiped out people, I'm sure.
yeah,
There
but
are groups from Africa that we don't even have today. Like, I'm trying to say, look, to me,
they
that
did not
rabbit hole.
wipe people out. They actually, intermarried, and most of the time they
So did
integrated
the
with them.
Romans.
No, the Romans actually wiped villages out. The Romans were
So
a
did, oh my
destructive
God,
force.
Ted, everybody did that in the old world. Like, you're just trying to say, oh, the Romans just did it so bad. I don't like, who cares if they, sure, I give you that. The Romans wiped out people. Everybody was doing that. The Romans just happened to really have a monopoly on the ability to do that. But what I'm trying to tell you is that's not your fight. Your fight is in the discourse that's created in the 16th and 17th century.
Well, that discourse did not just spring up from nowhere. That discourse was part of a large discourse that had been building
But
up
you
all.
can't prove it. You can't show me the Roman. First off, the reason why you can't prove it is the reintroduction of the classics. That's one. Two, you don't have a Roman discourse like a Willie Lynch letter. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You don't have that.
Well, the Roman superiority is not in question. The Romans
It's
did
not
feel.
racial, but Satan, then you're pushing. This is what you're doing. You're shifting. Show me what the Romans did. Show me the clear line. You can't show me because you're trying to basically say, oh well, with the European discourse, it's based on the Roman thing. And you can't prove that. What you're gonna give me is a hodgepodge. So you're gonna throw everything at the wall and pray it sticks. Show me where where Immanuel Kant says, or any one of the European continental philosophers, show me where they say this Roman philosopher gave us this ideology that we use to create global hegemony. You're not going to find it.
Okay, I will get to that, but before I do, let me welcome Brother Bakari Ntwadumela and Ndugugai Nollywood Jr. Go ahead, gentlemen.
I'm sorry. I fell off, man. I hit a bad. I was on my phone, and I missed a lot. But I'm gonna say I just heard you talking, right? So what you're saying is just because somebody didn't say it, you can't study history and compare yourself. Somebody have to tell you, or somebody have to say, I studied Rome, and this is what we're doing. That's the
no. That's what you're saying.
No, that's what you just said. I asked you, is that what you said?
No, that's what you're interpreting. So what I'm telling 10. Okay, well 10 no, that's what you heard. 10 knows exactly what I'm saying, but I know what 10 has had these conversations with me. She likes to dodge, and I like to hold her to the fire, right? And of course, the men are gonna come and say, "Damsel in distress, woman near the fire, we gotta save her." I get it, right? So
for Miss Pearly the other day. So go ahead.
say again.
Same way you did for Jess Pearly the other day. So go ahead.
Who? Just Pearly? I didn't. What did I do for Just Pearly?
Don't worry. I heard. I got. I'm gonna play it. I got it. Go ahead.
I don't know what he's talking about. But quickly, Bwana Hakaziki, I quote Chinwezu. If you notice, I never quote any of his stuff. Only stuff I quote on Chinwezu is about the stuff he wrote on women manipulating men. I don't quote any of his other stuff. I'm not a Pan-Africanist like Chinwezu, right? And I like Chinwezu, but I only quote that stuff. I don't quote any of his other stuff, if you notice that, Bwana. But again, I'm telling Tan, because what Tan is trying to do, like most Afrocentrics try to do, is try to say, as opposed to figuring out the origin and how Western philosophy and the Western system, right, creates the modern world that we see today, she's trying to say, oh, well, it's just an offshoot of what the Romans were doing. So then when I put her to the fire and say, show me this in Roman discourse that they directly copy, she knows she doesn't have it.
But if you study something, right?
I do have it. But yes.
And you ain't said it all this time. You didn't say it on the episode. You didn't say it to me personally.
I have been saying it all this time. Giving you exact parallels, how they were trying to model their government and their rule and everything after the Romans. The only difference, and I'll concede you that, is on the terms of race. That's the only difference between Rome and the modern world.
You know, but this is the thing. You don't
Can
have
you
to
show me the Roman equivalent of a passport?
Firstly, when it comes to, you were talking about, censors and
Oh, you see, when you again.
see, Tanzan, you letting them catch you thinking you got to read something to hear somebody say that. No, you don't. If you have studied history and you have studied Roman society, then you look at this society just like you can look at this society here and see
But
that.
Tam will admit that she hasn't fully studied Roman history and society.
But you can,
She said that on
I
the
have.
episode.
but you can look here and see where they copied some things from where they copied some stuff from Egypt. You
No,
can
no,
look
no,
at
no, no. No, Gastemap, I said I haven't studied anything about Arab history. Roman history, I'm very well aware of Roman history. I'm aware of their
You didn't
origin.
even know that the Romans didn't have a traveling circus. You were so confident in that.
I wasn't searching for traveling circuses on Rome, but I have studied the things that they kept.
but like I said, you
But
don't need all that. See, and that's where y'all let them catch. You don't need all that. It's literally all you can do is just compare. You
no.
can
She
compare
listen.
the Senate.
Tan knows if
They got
she were to write.
Congress. Go back to Rome. You can look.
No, Tan knows if she were to write a research paper and she were to just throw halfway information, she knows what the professor would say in response. She knows this.
But luckily we ain't in that class where they writing research. Right now I'm doing the grade.
No, but this is what I'm saying. But we are doing research, right? And this is why, we got to come much stronger. And that's why I said we got to let go of the John Henry Clarks and move forward.
No,
We
you
sound
can't.
like John Henry Clark episodes.
You can't let them go. You can update it. Why is everything black people do is dated? Anything they ever done, we don't say let's update it. Let's just get rid of it. Why is it so easy for black
I didn't
people?
say get rid. I said let go. I said let go. I didn't say get rid.
That's getting rid of it. You hold it and you can update the information.
let's let Ndiogo Guy have a word. It's so rude. Guy, do you want a word?
Yeah. I'm just listening.
Okay.
The guy said the brother said he wasn't a Pan African. He sounds like he's more of a Pan European. This is Pan European talk that is coming from him, and that's fine. I mean, if that's what you're into, that's what you're into. But the thing is, I'm listening, and I'm just like, he said let go the pro blackness, and if I could be wrong, that's what it's like. Then we gotta let go, because I heard this before from African folks, especially people that claim that they are a part of our race. So we supposed to let go of everything. But I did a program that white people didn't let go their pro-white. They didn't go their Greeks in Rome when they build their little buildings. And if you look at the courthouses or whatever, it looks just like or imitate what their ancient greats. But when it comes down to us, we gotta let go of our ancient greats. You know what I'm saying? There's no comparison.
But sir, where did you hear me say anything like that?
You said
that's your interpretation. I never said that.
You said we have to let go of our pro-blackness.
No, I said let go. No, I never said that. Everybody was here. You can play it back. I never said that. I said that, for example, we sound like a John Henry Clark episode on repeat, and we need to let that go. But Brother Bakari said something better, right? Sure, I'll give him that. He said, let's update it. And that's my whole point. Because if we start removing the concept of blackness in terms of ideologically and philosophically, no one is saying that in the modern world we're not black. What I'm saying is that once you start removing those lens, now you can walk into that courtroom and realize these people ain't even Greek or Roman. Now, if you were on the episode, we went into the history and we saw that they were not Greek or Roman. The people today who are claiming Greece and Rome are cultural appropriators. These are pagans and savages. These are barbarians, who the Romans themselves called barbarians, who, if the Romans were to come back to life today, would enslave them. So that's why I'm trying to tell Tan that it's interesting that she's saying that, it comes from Rome, but if the Romans were to come back today, the Romans would enslave these people.
If the
And
Romans,
I
if the Romans came back,
say that the Romans were also barbarian and savages. It was just a civilized barbarian race and an uncivilized barbarian race, which were the Germans. So
Okay, so Ted, if they're barbarians, that's fine. We give them that, but they're not these people. The people who have taken over the world globally, who have made Kenya poor with IMF structural adjustment programs, who have decimated the world with World Bank loans. The people who did that were not following Roman ideology. The Romans were not sitting down there messing up people's ability to feed themselves and grow their own crops.
I'll be damned.
I
So
say
no
that
matter
they're
what
part
you
of
say,
the same branch. They're not the same people directly, just
but
like,
Ted, if that is the case, if you take that, but Ted, this is why you can't argue with it, because now when I say if you take that road, then I can point to African examples of African so-called empires doing similar things. And then you say, oh, well, it's not the same level. Then don't go down that branch. Because if you want to go down that road and say, oh, the Romans, they did this, then I can tell you the Egyptians was doing the same shit to the Nubians. Shaka Zulu was doing the same shit to other groups. So that's why I don't go down that road. It's a silly road to go down. Let's focus on the people who took over us. It ain't the Romans.
Okay,
the Romans were part of the people who took over us. If you remember the invasions of Egypt, the Romans were not the first. It was the Persians, what was it? The Medians, the Medes, then the Romans, the Greeks, then the Romans. There was a succession of people who went into Egypt and took over, including the Romans.
I ain't Egyptian. I don't care about the Egyptians. You heard me before. F Egypt. Who cares? I don't care about Egypt. Egypt can wipe my butt with Egypt. I don't care about Egypt.
Wow, so you don't think you got no folks come from there, right? Oh my bad.
I don't need Egypt. Egypt can drop dead.
Say you need it. But see, but that's the see that, but you have said you're not a Pan-African, right?
I'm not. I don't need Egypt to feel glory as an African.
Brother Bakar, this is exactly my point, Brother Bakar. This is my point.
I want to say Amina, but that may have not been her name. But I know the queen from is Sudan.
Yeah, from northern Nigeria. Yeah, she was Hausa.
No, I'm talking about the one. I messed up the girl. I just watched the movie on her too. I just studied the one you're talking about now from northern Nigeria. But the one I'm talking about is from Sudan. She actually kicked the Romans' ass for Egypt, though. She went in.
Yeah, the Candaces. Yeah, one of the Queen Candace. Yeah.
I forget her name. You might. I said Amani because I just was studying Amani from Nigeria. That's why I said Amani. But there was a queen from Sudan. Even though I say it like this, right? Egypt, Nubia, East Africa, West Africa probably had wars. But if you want to go back, but when you look at the Hyksos, when they came in and won, the Egyptians and the Nubians knew that they had a connection. So they went and fought together to kick the Hyksos out. I think we need to find our connection so we can get ourselves together. And I'm going to be honest. I come over here and every time Gaz talk, I don't agree with everything. But right now I want him to stop talking because he done said too much I agree with. And I don't like to agree with Gaz. He done said some stuff I agree with. He said a couple things I agree with, and I don't even like to agree with him. But I understand his point. You know how me and you rock, so I most definitely understand what Guy is saying about.
Nobody is here to save me.
No, Dan, I got you. He did say a couple things that I agree with. When he said, I'm gonna tell you what he said I agree with. When he said our fight today is not with the Romans, it with these people. But yet and still, I'm gonna still call these people and the Romans and the Greeks all the same damn thing. Tan, I got your back. That's why I be sending you information. I got your back. That's why
it's slipping. It's slipping.
But Brother Bakar, this is my whole thing. These white folks never forgot where they came from. They're still practicing that Greek and Roman even to this day.
But that's the problem. They did because they're not Greek or Roman.
Hold up.
That's the problem. No, I get you, brother, but they're not Greek and Roman. That's the problem. You said they didn't forget.
Sir, I never said there was.
So then how can you say they didn't forget where they came from when they're claiming something that don't belong to them?
Because that's part of their history.
That's where you're wrong. Their Roman history is not part of their history. These people are savage booty scratchers. They were the barbarians that
Who is savage? Who's the savage booty scratchers? Who's that?
the goddamn Europeans that colonized the world. This is who they are. They're savage animals.
Yeah, we know
They're
this.
nothing.
Okay, we know that, but that's nothing
But
new.
they're not. That's what I'm saying. But they're not
So
Romans.
because you keep saying these not the same people. We know they're not. We know they're not like the people. They know, but they never forgot where they come from. Matter of fact, they still practice some of that stuff. Even to this
No,
day,
you see, that's what I'm saying. You're trying to say they're related. I'm telling you,
I
there
never
is
said that.
no
That's
blood.
that's not what I said.
So then,
That's
okay,
not what I
fine.
said.
That's not what you said. You're telling me they never forgot. What,
I say they
sir, what are they? Okay, what is it that you're telling me that they didn't forget? Because
I'm just
remember,
saying,
they had to be reintroduced. It's called the reintroduction of the classics. They claim they went through a dark age, right? Like if you 10 knows this stuff. 10 knows. She was on the show. She tried to defend it, and it didn't go too great. Buana Hagaziki was there, right? The people were reintroduced to the Greeks and the Romans. The people that we are saying, like the Europeans today, the British, the Germans, the French, these people lied. They claimed there was a dark ages, which never happened, that never existed. Then now, in order to fabricate their own history, because they are ashamed of who they are and who they were, they claim to be from Roman and Greek stock. That's why they call it Greco-Roman. But the Greeks and the Romans are two separate people. So that's the first lie. And that's what I'm trying to say. We got to go deeper with these people. So now when we go deep enough, now we can look at them like, yo, y'all always been cultural appropriating. You ain't even Roman. You ain't even Greek.
Let me ask you a couple questions, guys. So would you say that white people over here, the ones that you calling savage booty scratchers, and I absolutely agree that that's what they are. I even say it with the Romans and Greeks too. But would you say we have a shared history with them? Even though our history may be bad history with them, would you say we have a shared history?
What do you mean by shared history?
Do we have a shared history? African Americans, would we have a shared history with these European Americans?
In terms of being colonized and the genocide, the slave genocide that they call the slave trade, yeah. They came and they enslaved and they committed genocide.
And they destroyed the mother continent and they split up families. So watch this, right? And so over here, what you say, watch this, that black people around the world who was colonized by these people took up some of their culture.
Yes, okay, I agree. Good.
So now watch this. And that's why you find black people today arguing to be an American, arguing to be whatever. Now watch this. So the reason the British can say they are Roman, because the Romans enslaved them before they, whatever happened and who started kicking the Romans' ass, when the Romans enslaved them, and of course they bred with them and left babies, but they also adopted some of Roman culture, right? A lot of Roman culture. So therefore they have a shared history. So the history that they, in them adopting that culture, they, just like black people here trying to become white, those white people just became the other white people.
No, that's a great point. And for the elite level, you're right. A lot of the elite barbarians did engage and try to become as Roman as possible. But the Romans themselves realized that, yo, you couldn't civilize these savage barbarians. Like when we start reading the Roman literature on Britannia, right? Even like the place that Hispania, right? There's the land of rabbits, really. That's why it's a place with a lot of rabbits. The Gauls and the Thracians and the Goths and the Visigoths. If you read what the Romans were saying about these people, they're like, yo, these people, you can't help them. They're backwards, sick people. Now, they're elite. They did embrace Roman customs, the chiefs and stuff. But the average go of the way Thracian, Gaul, dirty, nasty, not taking a shower, not brushing their teeth, filthy person was not anything close to the Romans. The Romans, it was a clear distinction. That's why I say if a Roman senator were to come back to life and he were in the same room as Donald Trump, he'd say, why is my slave not fetching my water? But we black people, we've been so mind washed with this idea of white supremacy, which all of us, myself included, we don't even think, like, wait a minute, yo, George Bush would have been a slave. We assume George Bush would be high five, hey, brother George Bush, come on down and enslave. The Romans would have threw him in chains too.
So guys, if
How would you know?
if the Romans went into Britain or England and they conquered the elites, right? And the elites in England developed some of the customs of the Romans. You don't think that behavior would have trickled down to the common people inside of England? And then in turn, those same people, when they decided to come to the colonies in the Americas, some of them same behaviors would have extended out into the colonies into the Americas. You don't think that would have happened?
That's a good hypothesis, and I would love to see the research. But here's the thing: no, it's a great question, and that's why I said it's a great hypothesis. But then we would have to contend with the fact that the so-called classics had to be reintroduced to them. See what they did? They invented this thing called the Dark Ages. It's a convenient thing they had to invent. That's why now when you start doing the research on this so-called Dark Ages, because when I first came across the information, I said, nah, this can't be true. But then when oh wait, there was no Dark Ages. These people were lying.
So you saying the Hebrew Israelites lying about the Dark Ages where everybody was black, and that's why they called it the Dark Ages?
Listen, man, I am not. Listen, the Hebrew Israelites, I'm not touching them. I don't want no beef with anybody. I want no beef with that country that's not to be mentioned. Those are mafia gangbangers. And, you know, I'm from the streets a little bit. I know when you got some gangsters, you don't say their names. So I'm not touching those people. I don't want Tan's channel to have any problems.
Yeah,
my Hebrew Israelites.
Yes. Yeah. Let's keep on this safe zone.
You know what? So I might bounce because I don't be that safe because I have about as much respect for them as they have for me. I don't care, but this your channel, Tan, so I'll be respectful. But I say whatever on mine, and I don't care if it don't grow.
No, not to censor. I'm just saying that if you have to speak, you have to speak.
But I'm talking about the Hebrew Israelites for real, though.
Oh, those ones. Yeah, those ones are another.
I was cracking a joke about the Hebrew Israelites when you said the Dark Ages, because they teach it was called the Dark Ages because everybody over there was black. I was just cracking a joke.
Yeah, look, those guys, like I said, the reason why I don't touch them or anybody else, once you get in, because then everybody gets sensitive. And that's why I said one of the best books a person could read is on Shlomo Sand, right? His name, Kata put it in the chat. Shout out to Kata. He read it. You check out Shlomo Sand's book, and he's very well researched. They couldn't dispute what he said because he's from there. He broke all of them down, right? But to answer, Bwana, your question, if that's the case, and there are instances like the word London is a Roman word, Londinium, right? But
yes,
they had to be reintroduced to the classics. So that's why I said the question, like Brother Bukhari gave a great example. People got snatched from the continent in that slave genocide, because I don't call it a slave trade. It was a genocide. So they snatch people from the continent and they bring them over to the New World, right? And here's my thing. How is it that the people who went through the most brutal human treatment that we have on record, what the Africans who were snatched from that continent brought to the Americas, they had, I don't even want to get into it, but, they would do things to the mothers, do things to the babies, put feces in somebody's mouth and put a lock on it. You have to walk around with it all day. Just sick, nonsense that these booty scratching savages were doing. Yet, with all that brutality, these people never forgot Palo Mayembe. They never forgot Voodoo. They never forgot Santeria. They never forgot, roots work in the South. They never forgot jambalaya, which is an offshoot of jollof, right? They never forgot paella. They never forgot mofongo. They never forgot the rhythms and the drums from where they came from. You go to Brazil, they never forgot the acarajé that they eat in Brazil. Yet these people who never went through any of that allegedly had a dark age, and they forgot everything Roman.
for me, my personal, really don't even want to talk about the Romans, but I'll just belabor the point for a minute because I want to question you about something else. But the English law, the English common law, was practiced, throughout these colonies and so forth. The English would have gotten these things from ecclesiastical Roman law. Well, the church, the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church was in Rome,
That's
and
wrong.
I don't think so. I
Let
don't
me tell
think.
you why it's wrong.
I
Let me
don't
tell you
think.
why it's wrong. Because here's the and that's a great Harold J. Berman. He's the art, not me saying it.
What's his
Google
name?
him, Harold J. Berman. He's the foremost Harold J. Berman. He's the foremost Harvard historian on law. He was a Harvard law professor. He's the top notch. He's all the experts bow down to Harold J. Berman. You can check him out. Not me saying it, right? This is who, because when I was doing the research, I said who's the best in their field. The name Harold J. Berman kept coming up, right? Harold J. Berman makes an interesting point, and when I read, I said, "Oh, this is proving it." The Roman Empire embraced Christianity towards the end, and it splits up. You see, Constantine, Council of Nicaea, he approaches and engages in Christianity. Then it splits up, right? So you have Eastern and Western. But here's the problem. Yes, Harold J. Berman. Here's the thing about it. When we say, according to so-called ecclesiastical law, what we're referencing is the Holy Roman Empire. That's Charlemagne. That is not the Roman Empire. Tan knows this. There's no relation with the Holy Roman Empire and the Roman Empire. Do you want to know why? The reason why is because the Roman Empire was pagan. You can't be a Holy Roman until after Constantine in Nicaea, because before then, the Romans didn't believe in one God. They believed in the gods. They were a pagan system.
Yeah, but
Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying, but guys, paganism. Don't you think that some vestiges of paganism trickle down into the so-called Catholicism? You don't think that these two ideas was like intermingled with one another?
No, I know that, but no one's debating. Christianity is not is a polytheistic religion, right? The
So I'm
God, the
saying,
Father, the Son. But no
yeah,
one's debating that. I'm addressing your point
but
because
if,
you
if it,
said
yeah,
common law comes from ecclesiastical law,
yes,
which is true, but
yes,
that ecclesiastical law is not rooted in Roman law. It's rooted in Holy Roman
no
law.
problem,
But
no problem.
the
But you,
Holy Roman Empire is not the Roman Empire. They're two different things.
they,
Let me
they,
ask you
and
this.
hold on, give me a second, Brother
I'm
Bakari.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You ain't got to raise
Yeah,
your voice, Tawana Hagazee. You ain't
no,
got to raise
I
your
raised
voice.
I raised my voice.
No, I'm just clowning, man. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. No, sorry. All right, I read the race my voice, my voice. No, but the brother is saying that these two things are separate, and yes, they could be separate, but it's not this. But you saying that they were so separate, one had completely nothing to do with the other, and I don't necessarily believe that to be true. I believe that there were interminglings because just like in the states as we know it, or even in England, people they talk about the separation of church and state, but we all know that there's always these convenient intermixings when it comes down to the applications of a state and a church, and even in a society or a country, and how it's created and constructed and arranged and things in terms of that nature. So I believe that there had to have been interminglings between the so-called Roman Empire and the Holy Roman Empire. I don't think that you could
But you
draw.
would have to show me
Well, like you say, you gave me this guy today. His name is Berman. I'll do my research on him, and I have to because I have to find out exactly what his arguments are because I don't necessarily believe there was a complete separation which you're arguing. I don't believe that, but I
No, I'm saying that the Holy Roman Empire is not the Roman Empire, but more
I agree.
importantly,
I agree.
but more importantly, what I'm trying to show you is that what you're trying to say is that there were vestiges that were left behind, and if that is the case,
Have to
that
intermingle with one another.
that's a great point, and like I said, it's an interesting hypothesis, and it could be proven true. But then you would have to contend with the fact that They claim there was a Dark Ages, and they had to be reintroduced to the classics by the Moors. So that's why I asked the question, how is it that the African who went through the worst genocide possible still remembered African cultural aspects, yet these people who didn't go through that somehow forgot it?
Who forgot it? Which group? What group of white people are you referring to when you say they forgot it? Which group?
The people who got to be reintroduced to the classics.
In England or in
all of Europe, all of so-called Western Europe, all of the Westphalian states, they claimed that they lost Greek and Roman civilization, so they had to be reintroduced to the classics.
Like I said,
Am I making this up? You guys can check this out. This is what they said, not gas. I'm not saying this.
Yes. The Renaissance, in fact, was the rebirth, of Western civilization. Rebirth.
Yes, this is why they call it the Renaissance.
But you are agreeing. Well, you're agreeing. You understand the hypothesis where the religion itself, the Jesus Christ, westernized Jesus Christ principles that we practice, a lot of the paganisms that they practice in Rome and had many of the Christian traditions was bitten off of the practices.
Yes, there's syncretism. Yeah, but that's not what we're debating. What I'm saying is that because you're trying to say, because there was syncretism, that when Rome fell, because that's why I said the elite people, the booty scratching elite, the barbarians amongst them, copied Roman ideology. So you're trying to say it had to have trickled down, and you're trying to say if it trickled down, there were remnants and vestiges left over. So what I'm saying to you, if that is the case, then why were they reintroduced to it? And then you would have to show me what is it that they did that was a leftover from the ancient Romans, other than claiming to be Roman with the Holy Roman, invention of themselves. They had to whitewash history for themselves. They reinvented themselves. That's why they claim there was a Dark Ages, but there was never a Dark Ages.
Or wasn't the Romans, like you say, they were pagans, and I'm thinking they were polytheistic in their outview and purview. And it's the same thing with the Roman Church. They are polytheists. So that's the connection that they never lost. It wasn't.
No, but Charlemagne, that's what I'm trying to tell you. You're trying to say
maybe I'm missing. We missing each other somewhere.
No, we're not missing each other. I look. You're saying that that because Christianity or Catholicism is a syncretism, right, religion, and that it has Virgin Mary worship. It has the combination of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, which is three combined into one. So you're basically saying that is a pagan throwback. I'm not disputing that isn't polytheism. What I'm telling you is that you're saying that for them, they would have to have said that for themselves. That's one. And that's why I'm asking you, if that is the case, how come they claim they forgot everything about Rome?
Well, that's a claim, but what you are saying is that they were polytheistic as well, or you just saying they are pagans. The Romans.
No, I'm just saying. No, all I'm saying is that these people lied about their history to claim Rome and Greece. Because here's the thing, but Ron Hagziki, if that's the case, right? Remember, when we talked about this in the pentagrammers, the Rome is in modern day Italy, right? And it's right by North Africa, right? Spain and Britain are far away.
Yes.
Keep in mind, they were not the largest colonies of Rome. The largest colonies of Rome was Greece, Anatolia, and and Alexandria, and I forgot the other place as well. Right? Those were the largest. So if that is the case, then we might as well say that the Turkish are Roman. We might as well say that the Egyptians are Roman. We might as well say that, because if what we're doing is saying because these white booty scratching savages had the same skin color as Romans, that they are Romans, then we might as well say that the Turkish, that's all of Turkey, all of Persia, that's Iran, they're Romans too. and that they also had leftover remnants of Roman culture in their civilization as well. We might as well say that.
Can I ask you something? Can I
Yes, go ahead.
claim, let's say, the Congolese culture as my own? Can I claim, King Zhao and, that old, Ngola or whatever? Can I claim that?
Can you explain to me the connection as to how the question is connecting to because because remember, Buana is saying that the Gauls, the Visigoths, the Thracians, and these booty scratching savages, because they're remnants left over from Rome, they're Roman. Yet they weren't the only ones occupied or taken over by Rome. As a matter of fact, Roman discourse hated going over there. They didn't want to be a part of them. They loved going to see those big booty women in Egypt. They love seeing those big booty women in Turkey, right? So if that is the case, and Buana is claiming that there were leftover remnants of Roman ideology and society in those places, so then we can also say there's leftover Roman ideology in Turkey and Egypt, so that the Turkish have just the strongest claim.
But the Turks believe the Turks are
Turks
Muslims.
kick their ass.
They believe
No, but wait. Then if that's the, I'm just going off Buana's hypothesis.
What I'm saying,
If what
but
he's saying
Turks
is
kick their
true,
ass. There's not
no,
much.
but I'm not debating of whether they kick their ass, brother Bakari.
No,
What I'm saying is,
it wouldn't be much.
no, but wait, hold on. Before we go about who kicked whose ass, we're going off his premise. If that is the case, then the Turks and the Egyptians have much acclaim to Rome as the booty scratching savages who took over the world. Yes or no?
Before no, let's take, because you all are the European historians much better than I am. But let's take it historically. So before the Romans were the Greeks, right? And before the Greeks in their scholarship, they talked about being influenced by Egypt, right? So I'm asking, of course, one civilization would influence another one. My question is this, unless that's not a far-fetched argument, but my question is this: after the paganistic Roman civilization fell, which European power became the power in the world? It was the Roman Catholic Church. Am I wrong about that or not? You all are the historians.
No, you're wrong. After Rome fell, it was actually the rise of Muhammad. Rome fell around the 400s, and Muhammad and Islam come about in the 700s.
What do you mean the pagan Rome, the paganistic Rome, right?
No, well, Rome had already been Christianized after Nicaea.
Come on. So what I'm asking is, after the pagans in Rome, after the pagans in Rome, that civilization.
But pagan Rome wasn't the one that fell. It was Christian Rome, and then it got split in two.
So okay, good. So that's even better. So after the paganization of Italy, that what came was the Christianization of Rome, right? That's what you're telling me. One was
yes, but that's what I'm trying to tell you. That you see. No, look, Barney, that's why you got to read Berman. That's the mistake that we make, and that's the trick that they do. You're trying to say that there's a continuation of Christian Rome, and it's not the case because, no, hold on, Barney, because the Holy Roman Empire is not the remnant of the Rome that collapsed or that split in half after Christian Rome. Charlemagne's Holy Roman Empire is not Christian Rome. Charlemagne is all the way in France. Hold on, Buana. Look at the geography. Charlemagne is all the way in France.
Okay.
Rome is all the way in Italy.
Yes. Okay.
His Rome is not the same Rome that was split after Nicaea and Constantine.
I got it now. So now we talking when you're using the term Rome, you are not referring to Italy. When you talk about pagan Rome, you are not really referring to Italy. You're referring to France with Charlemagne, right?
No. What I'm saying is you are confusing the Rome. You're saying that the Roman Empire, that after it collapsed, because remember, Rome became Christian after Constantine and Nicaea. Then it collapses and splits in two.
Who was
right?
Who was before that? Which empire was before that? Before the Constantine, which one was before that? Was it pagan Rome, or was it the Turks, or was it who?
No, it was pagan Rome. Everything was all pagan Rome. Rome was all pagan.
So what you telling me is, after pagan Rome, You
So
can't.
let me give you the timeline. So after pagan Rome, Rome
Right.
becomes Christian with Constantine. You agree, right?
No, I'm asking the question. So if that is true, are you telling me that they were so divorced from one another? No, none of the ideas, the principles, the philosophy.
No, but that's what I'm trying to tell you. Slow down. You see, you're trying to create a straight line, a linear line,
I
and
am
I'm
trying
telling
to
you
create
that
a straight line, a logical.
yes, and that's not how history works. Like
Okay,
I get that's what we try to do, and that's not how it happened.
okay,
I'm saying after Constantine,
yes,
then Rome collapses. Rome is split in two. The Vandals take over. Charlemagne doesn't come into existence until I forget how many, way later after the Vandals take over. Because after Rome collapses, what do you see the rise of? 300 years later, and this is Dr. John Henry Clark's information, and he's correct. That's when you see the rise of Islam and Muhammad from the Arabian Peninsula. And that takes over the world, kind of taking over places that Rome once had. The part that they weren't able to conquer was that part of Western Europe where these booty scratching savages were. So these booty scratching savages synchronize and syncretize a lot of their pagan practices with Christian thought. So we have Christmas, which is all this nonsense and all these things that from their pagan, and they're mixing it with Christian thought.
where did Christianity come
Hey,
from?
let me ask a question. Let me ask a question right quick.
All right, that bro.
Now y'all go ahead and finish that because I'm gonna ask some I think more important than that we need to answer because
Yeah,
it's about us actually.
yeah. I really did. I was trying to avoid this whole. I was trying to not get into this European discussion because I want to talk about the whole Foucault, Kant, and Chinwezu discussion with who
Okay,
came.
yeah, quickly because I want to get off. I didn't, like I said, I know
Oh,
Tan. I didn't want to get off.
There
Yeah.
you go, man. Because I want you to answer this question too. It's for the men.
Okay, so go ahead. Both of y'all ask me a question. Go ahead. I'm listening.
I want every man on here, even for these what you call them booty scratching savages, right? When you study history, everybody done kick these people ass. The French, the Romans, the Turks, the Mongolians, the damn Vikings. That's why you go through there, you see Danelaw. I don't know if y'all remember being in school in grades and they sung that song, London Bridge is falling down. That was because the Vikings kicked that. But I'm asking, right? Did everybody have kicked these people ass? What was it in them that ain't enough? Because they came back and kicked our ass and look how long they've been over us. See, we can call them what we want. Think about that shit. Everybody kicked their ass and made them bow down. Everybody. French. I forgot the French. They didn't want to mess with Spain. Spain was powerful. Portugal was powerful. How is it these people has kept us in this bullshit? All these what and while they are going having wars with each other, how were they able to keep us this goddamn long?
That's what I'm trying to say. But for me, the French, the Portuguese, the British, they're all booty scratching savages. And I think the reason why is because they were able to create a system that, that's what we need to be targeting, right? Like it's like we're in a prison and we're not looking for the blueprints of the prison. We're just trying to find ways to interior decorate the prison to make the prison comfortable. I'm trying to say let's at least get the blueprints so we can find a way out of this motherfucker.
That's a good answer. Who either anybody want to answer? I was just asking because that's some whole while we holding this conversation. That's what came across my mind. Everybody done kicked these people ass, especially the British. Everybody, but they done dominated us all these years.
I personally think that we have not collectively decided to do that. I don't think that we. I think that we have taken the position, whether it's through conditioning or whether it's through our own personal thinking, not to think to think along the lines of being imperialist, to being being colonized in a particular place. I think that that's a worldview that we are maybe afraid to or fearful to. It's just that question have many different implications, And there's many different kinds of answers to answer that. Not it's not a one-way answer. You know what I mean? I think it has various different answers. So I don't even want to attempt that right. I really want to ask my question.
Yeah, no, go ahead, brother. Ask the question because I'm about to step off. I know
Yeah,
Tan wants to talk to
yeah.
you guys because I want to
So
hear what you guys on the back chat talk with Tan about the sports thing. I think you guys will have some interesting examples, especially brother Bakari on Kyrie. But go ahead, brother Barner.
and by the way, I can't never save time to think for myself, and I'm not a simp. But you mentioned that we hold on to people like us, well, historical scholars and things of that nature, John Henry Clark's of the world or whatever. But you quote Kant and you quote Foucault. Foucault, I think, is a French political theorist. So my question is this: okay, so there are African historians, because you talk about imagining a world outside of this one, coming up with our own various think tanks and thinkers where we could imagine a world that is outside of the concept of what we've been realizing or what the Europeans have realized in terms of what we live in today. You know, and sure, they do have their great thinkers, and I think that we have our great thinkers as well. But you seem to want to throw them away and create something new. My question is, if the product is not bad, if the product is not bad, yes, you can improve on it. But why seek to throw it away and create a new product? The product is not bad. What Marcus Garvey used to say back in the day wasn't bad. There's some of the truths Marcus Garvey would have said, it still holds true today. Some of the things when Wilson talked about blueprint for Black Power, some of them truths still hold true to the day. Sure, we can improve on it, but why do you want to get rid of it? That's my question.
No, I never said get rid of it. I said let go. But brother Bakari gave a great point. He said update. So I will say update. Here's the problem. Um, I think if you don't take the time to study Western philosophy, and I was one, I was I don't care about Western philosophy, but the truth of the matter is the system. Like you guys always tell me, well, we live in the world today, right? And this is the world we live in. Well, who created that world? That world was created in the minds and within the machinations and ideologies of psychos and madmen, right? Newton was called the last of the magicians. We're under Newtonian law, right? The world we live in is this Newtonian physics guides our world. So if we don't take the time, and I definitely got to read more and keep reading more, but if we don't take the time, I don't think to study Western philosophy for us to get lost in it and for us to become Western philosophers, but take the time to study Western philosophy so we can understand the underpinnings of how these people created this system, right? Like Cato talks about technology. Language, speech is a technology. It's a form of magic as well. Magic is a technology. So they used their language, they wrote things down to create a world for themselves that we now live in. So if you think about it, one example is Germany and France and these places are beating the crap out of each other. What we call it World War I. Nobody in Nigeria, even though it's not a country, but nobody in Africa was fighting at that time. Nobody in South America was fighting. So how dare they call it World War I? Why don't they just call it Europeans beating the shit out of each other again? Right? That's what they should call it. But they are the only ones that exist in their world, and everybody else has to go along with it. So for me, if we don't take time to study the blueprint of those who enslaved us, and those blueprints, in my opinion, are found in Western philosophy, because that's, if you really scratch them deep enough, that's where they get their ideologies from, whether it be Marx, whether it be Adam Smith, whether it be Hegel. If we don't take the time to study these Western philosophers, then we won't understand how they think. If we don't understand how they think, then we'll always be playing catch up. That's why I said, we still, black people need to get gold, and gold is money, and the Federal Reserve of the United States has already run a test run with a digital currency.
But
So we'll
gas,
still be holding a bag of gold, and they've already moved on to digital currency. We'll always be 30 steps behind.
but gas.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Absolutely, you did. John Henry Clark, he stated the same thing. He stated that you can't start or even attempt to start study, and I don't agree with this, but he said that you can't attempt to start studying African history, before you start studying the history of your so-called masters, quote unquote. So he agreed with that opinion of studying Western philosophy. I believe that we should study Western philosophy, but I also believe that we should study African philosophy as well, because there's many good books, even with the Nigerians. The Nigerians created, they have many thinkers who would have written um, um, political theories and in terms of how to create the world, how things should be properly structured, and in terms. And I believe that we should be as good as quotas with European and Western philosophers are we as we are as the African philosophers. And I think that that's where the shortfall is, because
But
I don't hear a lot of statements or quotes from African philosophers as I do when I hear these European philosophers being quoted.
and I'll tell you why. Because for me, you see, I get what you're saying, and I used to think of that way, right? But this is me, right? There is no such thing as African philosophy. We don't need African philosophy. Philosophy comes out of the mind of Europeans. For me, I'm not impressed by so-called African philosophy. We don't need it, right? Africans didn't sit down and philosophize, for the lack of a better word, right? I think Westerners invent philosophy, right? Like when you think people say science, right? But what was science in its introduction called? It was called natural philosophy, right? It's the use of reason, ration, and logic to the natural world. And so for me, I'm not impressed with anything so-called African philosophy. We don't need an African philosophy.
So you are impressed by European Western philosophy then?
But why did you use the word impressed? You see,
Because
that's interesting, right? That's interesting. I'm not impressed. It's not about being impressed. It's about understanding that if Western philosophy is the prison that if Western philosophy is the blueprint of the prison that I'm in, then I'm going to study the blueprint.
but you don't think that there are other prisoners?
African philosophy, what I'm trying to say is this: African philosophy is not the blueprint for the prison that I'm in.
But you don't think that there are other prisoners in the prison that you are in, thinking, well, how do I get out of this prison that I'm currently in? You don't think that you would have a history and a long line of people who are in the same prison as you and was thinking of ways that they could have get out of the prison, and there are some things you could use.
Of course,
So I'm
of
saying that
course. But when you read them, like Chinwezu, then they end up sounding like disappointed Marxists. This is my point. This is why I don't take them serious. This is why I don't take them serious. Tan knows this. I don't take none of these Africans serious because Gas them up wants to be in his village. Listen, I want to be in my village with my goats and my 5 wives.
Yes.
I know I can't get there, but at least I can dream of that, right? No, because like you guys say, we live in the world today. So at least I can dream of it.
Come on, man.
Right? But hold on, but listen. Chinwezu and none of those African philosophers want me to be in my village. What they're envisioning is an African face to European continentalism. I don't want anything to do with Europe. I want to be in my village with my 3 wives and my goats. I'm at least mentally, I'm trying to be there.
Despite what those former prisoners may have said, I'm sure you have some thoughts of your own. And you live in one of the most expensive cities in the world. If you choose, and I don't know what your money is, but if you choose tomorrow to get on a plane and go to Esoko or whatever Nigerian, because you don't consider Nigeria, but whatever part of that area, and establish a farm, goats, cassava, and things like that, you could do that tomorrow if you want to. You choose not to currently.
No, that's not true. What you're describing is a meta choice. It's not a full choice, right? That's why in contract law they say any type of any contract that you sign under duress is null and void. So what you're doing is you're giving me the meta choice, right? So and like I said, I'll leave with this. Milton Friedman made your argument, right? He said, "Oh well, free markets are free and it's good for the world, capitalism and democracy, because people vote with their feet. And if you don't like one employer, you can move to another employer." But C.B. McPherson, the Canadian, responded, and Friedman never responded back to this. He said, that's not the true definition of freedom. Freedom is the ability to enter into a contract and the ability to also refuse to enter a contract. So just because I can change my employer doesn't mean I'm free. I should have the ability to refuse to work. Aha. But we don't live in that system.
But
The
gas,
capitalists, the capitalists have basically seized all the land,
but
and they
gas,
seized lands and they forced everybody to work in the factories. So I'm under a meta choice.
but gas. Now I'm talking philosophically right now. I'm saying that you and I don't know your wallet, but I'm saying
No, but we're not. But that's what I'm saying. You see what you're doing is you're reducing me to. That's why I said I'm not
so
talking about. But Juan, I'm not talking about you get up and go and pay your bills. I'm not telling anybody go sit down there in the park and open up your chakras and let the sunlight hit you. Yeah, do that. That's good. But you still got to pay your bills in this system. I'm saying philosophically and ideologically, at least let me envision the world of just my village.
oh, so
I,
you don't really want that. This is a philosophical.
it's
When you
not about what I really want. Of course, I want it, but you're not understanding. There's no way I'm going to get that when
why
the
not?
hegemonies, because I'm at war. The
Okay,
World Bank will not allow me to live in peace.
okay,
The IMF is not going to allow me to live in peace. So as long as they exist, I have to find a way to at least ideologically and categorically destroy them philosophically. So they have no longer any arguments for their right to exist. If we defeat their arguments for their right to existence, at least we're armed with that. Then we can arm ourselves with the guns, because that's what happened to Haiti. The Haitians fought back, got the guns, and we fought, but they didn't defeat them ideologically. So that's what they told Dessalines. Oh, you've defeated France, but look, you're still Frenchmen. Aha.
so you think that our battle is, and I don't mean to keep you, brother, because you may have to go. So you think that our battle is an ideological one, and when we win that ideological battle, we'll have this idea of peace.
No, I think once we defeat them on the ideas, on the realm of the ideas, then people can have something to act upon. That's why it's called the Western canon. Somebody's at war.
Okay, okay. Well, it's good having you, bro. I know you gotta go. Thank you,
Ah, that's a good one. Canon for war. I had forgotten that whole linguistic
Man,
militaristic.
Tan, listen, you look, man, you just look, Tan. I give you the game. I gave you the game, man. You don't want the game, Tan. I gave it to you. You don't want it.
I didn't come here to steal from
I
you.
do.
I'm still winning the debate.
I gave Tan the game. She don't want the game. Now she like, oh, Cannon, that's a go. I've been gave Tan the. I
When
gave her this information a while ago. Tan don't want the game, man.
gas having a go at you time, I just sit back and I just let you. You know, if you can't fight him, if you gonna let him bully you and turn this show into Black Pentagrammers, that's on you. Yeah, I mean that's on you.
Hey, I have no control over my show after a certain time. You guys got over on the other ones as well, so I just go with the flow. That's my sign. I'm just going with the flow. I set
Okay,
it up. Yeah.
okay, but you was talking about black basketball players. I don't know how we got into Rome and these political discussions, man. Because I was just talking. I was just listening to the basketball discussion, and the soccer or football discussion, and how the
Well, first
athletes.
of all, where there's gas, there's what? The Romans are not far behind.
Gas is going to the metaphysical a lot. You have these metaphysical political discussions, and I just sometimes I'm not there. When I listen to the Black Pentagrammers, I'm there. When I listen to Tan is talk about cults and things like that. If I listen to Brother Bakari talking about business. So I try to compartmentalize y'all when I listen to y'all, because y'all coming from three different um situations. So I'll continue to listen in the back though. Thank you though.
No, 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 you're good. If you want to talk more sports, that's cool with me.
No,
Like I said,
I'm just rambling, you know. But yeah. So where did we get off when you was talking about the athletes and what is propaganda model and sports coverage? What is the propaganda model?
well, the basic summary and conclusion was that, when people talk about sports, hold on one second. when the media reporting of sports is usually done, is focused on the athletes, the entertainment aspect of it, and then the propaganda model of Noam Chomsky is that, and this applies to everything. He applies it to sport in this chapter, but it's part of a wider thing where it's the elite, the dominant society that projects a positive view of itself, upon the media, and then a negative view of their, opponents. So they either stay in the shadows or they are very rarely, referred to. So we talked about the elite, the agenda making factories, or institutions, the media agenda making institutions, the respectable prestigious ones like the New York Times, the ones that everybody agrees that, their information, Reuters and all that, their information is supposedly, credible. So first of all, the first part of propaganda is not just how you present something, but what you present. That's the most important aspect of it, what you actually put forth. Because when you look at news is not just, a report of everything that happened that day. Too many things happened for it to just be, reported. So somebody has to sit and sift through all that information and say, this is the things that we're going to report on. Out of all the millions of things that happened, this is what we're going to focus on. So that's the first part of that. So the elite in terms of sport, they choose what it is that they're going to report on, whether it's going to be, the results is part of it. That's just the technical aspect. But the outside aspect of it is, the salaries of the athletes, their performance levels, almost, all the numbers associated with them, all that sort of thing. It's like it's like putting them on the, on the chopping block, and then seeing, is this one, like that fantasy football league where they make up stats and numbers, and they take this and they mix them up and do all these things. So they make the players into just this bunch of numbers. So that's the first thing, by focusing on the athletes. And then in terms of the money, when they talk about the athletes, when people search, when people do Google searches, so they looked at both the, the traditional press, the New York Times and so on, and also the modern one, which is Google, the internet and so on. And they looked at the words like, what are associated with when you type, selfish, greedy, all of these things, and it's usually attached to the athletes rather than to say, the owners. So the athletes are overpaid, the tickets are overpriced, but nobody talks about how the owners are overpaid and how they get tax subsidies from, the taxpayers, who end up paying double, both in tax subsidies for the welfare and also in tickets when they watch the games, and also in cable bills when they do broadcast them. So you're forcing somebody to pay twice, but the actual owners, the people who are behind the scenes, are making money upon money, and it's almost like a religious what is it, tax exemption. So yeah, that's
I
the
think it's interesting because when you think about it, that the majority of the owners of some of these football sports teams, when you go at the top, then you have the carry our urban argument, and then when you look at the media houses, and you go to the top and see who owns them, you have the same carry urban argument. So they're not gonna fight against each other. In fact, they understand propaganda real well coming out of Germany. So they're gonna, instead of propaganda being used against them, they're gonna use it to their best advantage. I find that to be interesting, and also when you also think about it, right, in terms of money and how when they talk about athletes and how much money they're making, what is gonna happen to the regular young person, young black guy on the street? He's gonna spend the majority of his young life trying to get a job where 99.99999% of the majority of people will never get a chance to have that opportunity to get that job. It's almost like like you winning the lottery. So really and truly, it would it would be wiser, more intelligent to focus on a particular venture or industry or some career, some opportunity that you are more inclined to get. And I think that we are a lot of us, especially the younger men, are fooled into this idea that one day I'll be able to help my mom and help my family members because I'll be able to get this big salary. And 99.9999% of the people will never get that opportunity and chance. And really and truly, you are behind the curve because you would have spent your almost the entirety of your young life trying to attain that position or that kind of job. Instead, I could have been trying to be an engineer from 7. I could have been trying to be a computer expert from 7. This is where the so-called the best computer engineers, when they start their careers, that's where they start. So if I spend more of my time doing that, even if I don't make it to a Bill Gates status, I'll still have a skill that'll be comparable, and I'll still be competitive in the marketplace as opposed to being a basketball player. Where am I going to get a job if I don't get a job in the NBA? I'll become a coach or something. And if not, because that's a very low skill if you don't exist within the skill of the NBA arena or if you don't get offered an opportunity in China. So why spend my time doing that? But I think that the people who own these, the people who own these corporations know that very well. They are creating underclass of young men, because when they reach of age, they will be very unskilled in a regular marketplace, which they will be going because 99.99% of them will never get into the NBA. And I'm not trying to be a dream killer. That's just a reality. But what do they do with the with other people like the Elon Musk of the world? They show his salary too, because many young people who look like him will aspire to become that. And what's that? That's vast. He's in engineering, he's in computers, he's in all manner of things. He's an entrepreneur, all manner of things. So the young guy, who's watching the Elon Musk, people who look like him, probably more or less, their opportunities are wide. Almost like, mom, I can really do anything. Let me spend my time doing this just like Elon Musk. He started early. Let me investigate. Let me put my time and energies into this. And more or less, you know, when he reaches a certain level or a certain age, he will have more opportunities than the unskilled basketball player who didn't make it to the NBA. So I think that these price tags that the media puts out there is intentional, but I think it has a nefarious. For me, it's nefarious because you are creating an underclass, and then you are creating a class of people who are going to dominate the world. And I think that that's where the propaganda comes in because it's used intentionally. And of course, within our communities, no one wants to be the practical person or the so-called dream killer and say, look, take a more practical approach where you're going to be more inclined to get a certain situation going for yourself. If you practice this, if you spend the same hours you spend on the basketball court or the soccer field doing this particular thing, the world will be more open to you. There'll be more opportunity for you. But when you're living in Disneyland, when you're living in Disneyland, you have to create dreams and fantasies, and everybody want to live within that fantasy. And unfortunately, for most of us, we won't get that $60 million 5-year contract here. But I'll stop there.
Hey, but you know something though? I'm gonna tell you something. It's a way to say it to our youth, right? When I hear people getting on social media just talking, we don't need no more football. We don't need no more basketball. It's a way to say it to your youth. You understand? You can tell them this is what you should study. Or, right, if we get out there and most of these kids just have you seen most of them? When they make it, you see their parents. It's one parent most of the time, right? So if we're not out there talking to them, then we're insulting their profession or what they're trying to be. See what we need to do? Because they're going to play basketball and football regardless, right? So what we do is let's show them the mulatto, Shane Battier. You understand? You know who Shane Battier is?
No.
Okay. Shane Battier played 4 years at Duke University, graduated with a 4.0
Yeah,
from Duke,
I know somebody. Yeah,
graduated with a 4.0 from Duke,
went from Duke. Yes.
graduated with a 4.0, but he was
Yep.
also good in basketball.
Yes,
See, maybe
sir.
we can show them you can do both. So if something don't, so if it don't pan out, because see, I'm not one of the, and it bother people when I say this. I'm not going to tell no young kid who want to play sports, don't play. I'm not going to tell them that. We don't need that. We need doctors and lawyers. Yeah, we need doctors and lawyers. I'm not saying we don't. But what these young men see, right? They see an opportunity to change their economic position and change their families' financial situation, right? So
Yeah,
while
but
they're go ahead.
brother Bakari, is the only way to change your parents or your family situation is by dunking a basketball or kicking a soccer ball. That's the only
Nope.
way to change it.
Nope, nope. That's why I say if they're playing and they're working hard at playing, we also have to show them the other side. Like we have to show them the other side. Cause like ain't nobody showing them. You understand what I'm saying? Like we
Sure.
can get on here, and we can talk about them. I ain't talking, that's not what we doing. I'm talking about I hear people on YouTube talking about them. And they quick to quote Tupac. Even Tupac said, "We don't need no more doctors or no lawyers." Well, we ain't need no more rappers talking about killing nobody. Look what that shit done evolved into. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, yes,
But
yes.
they, but they, but they don't want to touch that because it's Tupac, right? But what
There,
I'm saying is,
mm,
if we truly had a mentoring program, and if
yeah.
we truly got here and mentored, right, we could show them you can be good in both. You can be good in both. Don't just put all your eggs in one basket. You feel me? With basketball. I don't even tell them you might not be good enough. I tell them, what if you hurt your leg? What if you hurt yourself?
That's a good way of going about it. That was, because it get a young person to start thinking, what if I break my ACL? You know, what if I can't? What if I get old? What if I can't do it like I used to do it? What's gonna happen then? I mean, these kinds of questions needs to be. There was a young brother. He was a Bahamian, as a matter of fact. His name was Myron Rule. Myron Rule used to.
What? He was a what?
He was a Bahamian. He's a Bahamian guy.
Okay.
I just try to hop at these, yeah. But
That's how you say it?
he's a
That's how you
Bahamian.
say it?
Yeah, Bahamian. Yeah, yeah. But
Okay,
he
not Bahamian. Okay.
no. But if you look him up on YouTube, you could find him. He made it to the NFL. But he was also a Rhodes Scholar, and I think that it came a time where he was supposed to renew his contract, and he decided to go to medical school, and he is actually a neurosurgeon now, a neurosurgeon.
Can you
So
type it in the comments or in the private? I can put it or look it up.
sure, sure. Yeah. So he decided to, rather than abuse his body, or rather than do something that would, after the 5 years you spend the rest of your life paying hospital bills. He decided, well, let me do something else. And I think that you are right. You could also do something else, and that question needs to be put out there, for because I don't want to be a dream killer. I am optimistic about the world, but I also know, Brother Bakari, 99.9% of brothers who try to make it to them won't make it. 99, man, the odds of that is like, it's like winning the lottery, bro. So I mean, why would you spend the entirety of young life trying to get a job where most 99.9%, come on, bro, that's gambling. And I don't like to gamble with my life.
You're right. I don't know the guy, Bobby E. Wright, just put in the chat. Then you mentioned the guy from the Bahamas, like Robert Smith, right? Robert Smith played. Robert Smith played in the NFL for 6 seasons, then retired because he wanted to be a doctor. So he played long enough
Yes,
to
yes.
get his money
Pay his
and,
bill,
to get his retirement for the rest of his life
and
after they.
I'll see y'all later. I'll see y'all later. And I think that, I just think that you could be more than one thing. And I think that what's pushed is, well, you could just be this great athlete, and after you retire, you could be some announcer person just sitting on your tuffet doing really nothing. And I think that you could do anything. The discipline it takes to become a professional athlete, you could use that same discipline and become something else great too. That's my only position.
I agree, but the only thing I'm saying is I don't get telling the youth, we don't need no more football or basketball. I don't
No,
give a
no,
damn.
no. You could be if you. Oh, okay, you could be a football, but notice the discussion though, brother Bakari. Whenever we talk about that, we always say on the labor side of it, I could be a football and basketball player. Why can't I be an owner? Why can't I be a marketer? Why can't I be a football or basketball agent? They make money too.
You know something?
Oh
Remember
goodness.
my son? I was telling you. You know my youngest son who in college, right? He
Yes,
loves
yes,
sports. He loves football and basketball,
yes, yes,
but he don't have that athletic gene, and he know it, right?
yes.
He rode the bench in high school football, and you thought he was a star. He was happy as hell to be on that team because he had friends on the team. He was
Yeah,
happy.
yeah.
But
Uh-oh, Ezuli is here. Ezuli is here.
but you know
So,
what though?
Brother
But you know what though?
Haguziki, you are
Ah,
in trouble.
no, I'm not. No, I'm not.
But but
Okay?
you know what but you know what he said? Like he going to school for law. He want to do. I told you want to be a defense attorney, right?
Yeah,
Not a
perfect.
defense. Yeah, he want to be yeah. What they call it, the free lawyer for the people going to jail. That's what he want to do first,
That's
right?
what he gonna do. He gonna be free.
No, you know what they call him, the court appointed attorney,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Public advocate. Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, but you know what his goal? You know what else he want to do? He said whenever he gets, we can own his own firm. He want to be a sports attorney. He said, Dad, I wasn't good in sports. He said, but one thing I do know, if you white sports, he said athletes always getting in trouble, or they gonna always need an attorney. He
That's
said
true.
he said I can be associated with sports.
That's true. He doing some thinking. He doing some thinking. Uh,
Because yeah,
uh, Azuli, stop it, stop it. By the way, if you are drafted, this brother was able to get a job. I already didn't say 99.9% of the population, people who attempt that position will never ever get. He got the job. He got offered an opportunity to play professionally. He decided, well, listen, man, his story is on YouTube. You could listen for yourself. And if you want to, you can contact him. You know what I mean? Email him. I'm not gonna get no back and forth argument with you.
the third round draft pick, wasn't he?
You
I
sound
don't. I,
triggered, Brother Haguziki. You sound
no, no,
That's
no.
what
triggered.
I'm saying.
Me?
That's what I'm saying. Hey, Tan,
Yes?
hey,
Yes.
scroll down his page and see what round he was drafted in. Was he? I think he was a third round draft pick.
Was he?
It's,
I,
it says I was drafted by the Tennessee Titans. Hold on. In the sixth round
oh,
in.
sixth
Oh, I
round. I
think
thought
I
he went.
posted it.
Is that good or
Yeah.
bad? Sorry, I don't know. I don't watch
Was
football.
drafted in the Titans. Hold on. I'll paste it. Was drafted in the sixth round. Sorry.
Is he related to
Yeah.
Samari Rowe?
It's a million different rules here, bro.
Because that was the rumor when he first came out. Oh, that's
Yeah,
Samari Rowe.
he is related to another football
He
player.
was he was he was drafted by the Tennessee Titans in the sixth round of the 2010 NFL draft.
Mhm.
Yeah, Ezul is just hating.
No, no. Continue to read. Continue to read though. Continue to read. He no. He is recorded at a Rhodes Scholar and was awarded
Wow.
to go to Oxford University.
He
This
ended FSU College of Medicine and is a neurosurgery resident at Harvard Medical School General Hospital. Okay. Were awarded the Rhodes Scholarship and chosen as the second smartest athlete. Yeah, he's done some things, yeah, let me share his achievements. So I don't know if it's going to all copy. Let me see. Okay. So and who's this Antron Roll?
Antron
Are
Rowe
they
played in the league. He played in the league.
he was another
are they all
football player.
Samari Rowe is Bahamian too. He Bahamian and Cuban descent. Samurai. We used to call him Samurai Rowe, but his name is
He
Samari Rowe.
Brother Bakari, he's a football player too.
Yeah, Samari Rowe is a football player too.
Okay. I don't know these brothers, man. I heard his story. I heard his story, and I found it to be fascinating. Like I say, I think that you could be more than one thing, and I think that yes, You can't be a dream killer and kill the idea that that your brothers them can't make it. I would never want to put myself on that end. But I say, like Brother Bakari say, I say that you could be more than one thing. You could be both. You could be both. Put that in their mind too. And I think that that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, so interesting. But let me ask you something, Brother Bakari. You said something on your program the other day. You said that baseball was an expensive sport. Why did you say that it's expensive more than
Oh,
any other sport?
they started making it expensive for little kids to play. That's why black people got
How,
out of it. That's why black people. That's why African Americans got out of it. It's expensive,
how
What
is
to
it
play
expensive?
what? To play what?
but you have to pay for everything, and it's year round.
Soccer?
It's year round. You have to be travel ball. No, I'm talking about baseball,
Oh.
and it was done. You know why it was done? And I'm glad they did a special on this on ESPN, and I watched it, and I was glad because people was getting mad, right? Yeah, they just using. I'm gonna use today's term, tethers. Of course, that ain't what black. We were saying they just using those black people from other places to take our place. So I was watching a special on it. They don't even consider themselves black. So I was watching a special on ESPN, right? And they showed all these brothers from the Dominican Republic, all
Yeah.
these brothers from Cuba and Puerto Rico who played baseball.
Hmm. Poor countries.
But the first thing they said was, we're African and we know the African Americans is our cousin, right? That was the
Hmm.
first thing they said. The
Hmm.
second thing they said was they understood some of the African Americans' gripes, saying they were being moved out the way for them.
Oh.
And he was like, but they also said, but they have to understand that we come from nothing. We can't turn down $7 million and do something else to help our family.
Mm. Mm.
So what they were creating, what they were trying to create was a system where the black people, and this coming from the players
Mm.
who have played and was playing now. This come from the African descent players that have played and in the league that said they was trying to create something with the African Americans so they don't get pushed out because they said they understood. They said
Mm.
they understood what the white people was doing, but they was just in a position where they couldn't just turn down nothing.
No, I understand. But Brother Bakari, if 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 some of the people who are coming from Cuba and the Dominican Republic, they coming from so-called third world countries, extremely poor countries, right? Why do they have, and I'm sure that where they play baseball are very poor, because they don't have any money to buy the equipment as well. How are they able to compete with
That is my question exactly.
with,
How
with
how
the,
are these people from poor countries able to afford something that is too expensive for Americans to afford?
and compete and be able to compete on that level? You know what I mean? How are they able to do that?
Because I guess it's not expensive for them to play in their country. Like I got a homeboy live in Colombia, right? He
Yeah.
moved to Colombia, and what he did was he went and he helped sponsor a black little league team in Colombia. And he was talking, and he said, I don't know how, but he was like, because he said he done lived a lot of places, right? He from New York, but he was like, he said, if you look at the white little league teams in Colombia and look at the black little league teams in Colombia, he said you will see. He said everybody on the black little league team don't even have a glove. Every player don't have a glove. They might have 9 gloves. That's just for the starters.
Yes. Yes.
Anybody else come in, they got to swap. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
But he said when you look at the white teams, how they're being sponsored. So him and some more African Americans that went to Colombia donated money to help sponsor a black little league. And he said when they sponsored them, he said they were so happy because that was the first time they ever won a championship because they finally had enough tools to win. They finally had enough tools to win. Coming from the Dominican Republic, I don't know. Like I would say Panama. I,
They
I,
showing
I
the
like
spirit.
baseball. So do either one of y'all know who Mariano Rivera is? I know Tanzan don't.
Mariano Rivera. No, I don't know who he is.
Okay, he was a Panamanian brother, the greatest closer in the history of baseball. I ain't saying
Wait. How are you allowed to say Panamanian, but I'm not allowed to say Bahamian?
Because it's not pronounced. It's not pronounced. She's having She's having a, you know, Ty,
Yeah,
I
Yankees.
attack you yet, you know. I attack you in this whole show. Keep it up, bro. Keep it up.
But yes, but you know what he did? His last two contracts he signed with the Yankees,
Yes.
and he knew he could get it. And this is something our brothers in the NBA and the NFL need to do, right? You know what he did?
What he did?
He told the Yankees he wouldn't sign with them if they don't put $12 million in his community, in at least $12 million in his
That's right.
community
That's
in
right.
in Panama, where he's from.
That's
Not
right.
not his money. In order for him to sign,
That's big balls.
he got the contract making about 15, 20 million a year. He say, I won't sign if you don't help my community. And
That's
they put 12 million. Because he knew he could get it somewhere else. He knew he could have got that from another team. You see what Azula put? You see what Bobby Wright? Man, that was a bad. I'm gonna tell you, was a bad man, and I'm gonna tell you something, right? It's almost to the point where white folks don't complain about baseball no more. The African Americans were better, so they brought other black people. I think they have just went ahead and conceded like shit. You know, when they play, they just better than us. People from other countries come here and just better than them. And it's not even close. It's just better than them. Like if you look at football now, look at how many people from Nigeria and Haiti who starting to play football. Look around, then look around the NFL. You know what? There's some white people getting mad at
The black Americans have conceded.
I think
no.
I think the Haitians are so strong because of the dirt cookies they eating the bonbon there.
No, the African Americans. No, the white people conceded that black people just better than them. Don't care where they come from. They didn't want us here because we were better. So they thought they was bringing other people in that they could pay cheaper, they could be better. Like, damn. Man, I'm telling you, I ain't gonna lie. Me and one of my older brothers were talking. My oldest brother, he was like, man, I was watching. He said, man, them black people from Dominican Republic and them black people from Puerto Rico. He said, wherever them black people come from in South America, man, they can flat out play. Man, they can play some baseball. Hey, they can play some baseball. But the thing is, so we should get back into baseball.
Yes, not a yeah. I think that the brothers was right when they saying that in the Dominican Republic and Cuba, it's a bigger culture, as far as baseball and soccer is concerned, rather than America's. America's more inclined to be big basketball players, so that's why they're the best at that. But yeah, I think that might be what it is. It would be what it is. Who knows?
But the thing about what it is, you know what I also see? Whenever a black person get a chance to do something, we're just good at it.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so, brother Bakari. I think that what you see when you see the brothers them out in the field doing what they doing, they've been doing that from since they was in since it was 5 years old. So that's why they look like but they practice, man. They practice and they train. I don't see. You know what they say about us? They say that we are naturally gifted, and you know why they say that? Because they don't want to talk about the fact that we discipline. It takes discipline. It takes skill. And another thing is these sports are thinking sports too. You have to be quick on your brain and thinking. You know what I mean? So I think that all these things together have to do what you eventually see when you see professional athletes do that thing. They don't want to give us that credit. So they just say, well, we just naturally gifted. And I think that's bullshit. And that's bullshit.
It is, another small island that got has a lot of good baseball players and got about 7 or 8 in Major League Baseball.
Where is this?
The Dutch Netherlands the Antilles.
Antilles, that's Dutch. That's where's this? I can't remember.
That's his cousin stomping ground somewhere.
Not Belize, but can't remember.
The Dutch, right?
Yeah, that island was controlled by the Dutch.
They have a big baseball culture probably.
Yes.
They
in the Little League world. Look, I don't know if y'all see. I like baseball. I like baseball. If you watch the League World Series, it used to be
Curacao.
Curacao. That's it right there, Curacao.
Yeah, yes, yes.
You
That's
could have
right.
seen, you could have seen his brother. He played with the Dodgers. He was a pitcher, and he blew a save in the World Series. They
Mhm.
lost, and they end up losing the World Series because of that game he blew. And he was talking. He in L.A.
Mhm.
Matter of fact, I'll find that article. And he was talking. He was like, man, he said he didn't even know that. He said he didn't even know the fans knew he was the same as an African American. I don't know why he didn't think that, because if you don't hear him talk, you think he just grew up in Mississippi somewhere. But, but anyway, but anyway, he said, man, he had never had so many white people type the N word to him over and over and over in
All
tweets
right. All right.
because he lost. He said, man, it's a baseball game. I wanted to win. It hurt because it was the World Series. But he said, man, I didn't think I would ever experience anything like that about a baseball
No,
bout.
even the culture, even the culture. Baseball is like, it's big in the States too, man. It used to be with us, but it's big. But in these islands, they play a different game. They play cricket and soccer and things like that. So,
So what white people doing, right? Because I'm hoping that black people, African Americans, get back to playing baseball. I tried to teach my youngest son, but he just don't have the athletic gene at all. He's very smart though. He's very smart, but he don't
that's
have
his
them like
talent.
that.
That's his
Huh?
talent. That's
Yeah,
his talent. That's his gift. He's
yeah, that's
smart.
his gift. He wanted to play. Look, he wanted to be good in sports, but he wouldn't. I tried to teach him how to play baseball. But I'm not a good coach. He might be good. I ain't gonna lie to you. I was just wouldn't. I wasn't a good coach. But I will say this: I'm the best second baseman. Don't care what city and state I'm in. I'm the best second baseman in that city and state.
Ah, man, in second base, you don't really experience a lot of trouble in second base. You
I would have been the best shortstop.
experience
I just couldn't throw.
you say second baseman. Second baseman, okay. Well, I understand. You don't really got to sweat a lot in second base.
I'm better than all the Braves. If I'm in New York, I'm better than the Yankees and the Mets. All of them. I was good, man.
I wonder how come y'all. I find that America doesn't have a big football culture, and I don't know why. Why?
Who
Why?
lying, Azuli? Azuli called me a lie. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
Tell
boy.
Azuli, tell Azuli bring his Haitian self on. I don't know why in America y'all don't have a big football culture. I don't know why. When I say football, I mean soccer.
I know what you mean. You know, it's
Yeah.
coming. It's coming. It's coming. But they are trying to. They're pushing it toward the.
Apparently, somebody has an echo. But so second base is when you go far, but you don't go far enough, right?
No, second. That's a position.
It's,
That's,
she played a completely different sport.
see, think about this. Think about this now, Tanzania. Think about this. I'm 50, right? I'm older than everybody on here, right? So think about this. But if you go back to 70s and 80s, when they first started watching marathons, white people was winning. Black people can't run distance. They fool around and let them damn Kenyans know you get a check and
It was
she,
over. It was over.
huh?
When they let the Kenyans in, it was over. It was
They
just
let
over.
the Kenyans, they told them Kenyans, you know you get a check if you can run. Oh shit, for real? So now they ain't the best marathon runners no more.
What they did is they went to train with the Kenyans, try to see what they eating, try to see try to run with them so they could see
Can
they
you all name one excellent Haitian athlete?
Oh, I can't even think of his name right now. He blew his thumb off with a firecracker, played in the NFL, defensive end, won a Super Bowl with the I want to see one with the Giants.
Yeah, so
Oh,
Izuli
yeah.
can stop,
I,
just
I can't
calling
really
you
Yeah,
guys liars
Izuli,
and
when
no
I come
offense.
to New
No.
York, Izuli, you must be a Yankees fan. When I come to New York, I'm the best second baseman in the city. I'm better than the Yankees. I'm better than the second baseman for the Mets. I'm the best.
I only know one Haitian athlete. His name was he was a wrestler. His name was Tyree Pride. That's the only Haitian athlete that I even remember.
Yeah, the JPP, John Paul Pierre. Yeah, he blew
The
his.
Haitian sensation. The Haitian sensation. That's what I used to call him.
But it's a lot of Haitians. It's a lot of Haitians. It's a lot of Haitians playing football though. But they got Dumaville is gone. Dumaville is a future Hall of Famer. Played defensive end, won Super Bowl with the Broncos. Matter of fact, if you want to know Haitian athletes in NFL, just look up. Remember when what's her name? Hillary Clinton stole that
Oh, Bobby Wright says Jason
Jason
Pierre Paul.
Paul. Yeah. Remember when Hillary Clinton stole that money, talking about she was going to build houses in Haiti from the from the hurricane? Remember that they got like $500 million.
I remember that.
And yeah, and she built like 6 houses with like 500 million, 50 million, something like that. But anyway, but I know that's a big difference, but I don't know. 50, I know it's a 5 and a 0 first. But anyway, so Dumaville, and there was 3 more Haitians got together. And I can say this when, even though they may not call it Pan-Africanism, but this is when Pan-Africanism kicked in. It was like 5 brothers. It was 3 Haitians, then 2 brothers from the United States, and each one of them built houses in Haiti and was talking about Hillary Clinton like she got all that money and built 6 houses. I took 300,000, and however many houses $300,000 can build for a house that costs $6,000. That's what each one of them did.
That's awesome.
What's the fast guy from Jamaica? Faster than anybody ever. Ain't nobody gonna break his record.
Usain Bolt.
Yeah, Usain Bolt. Yeah, him. He donated some money to help get some houses built. Yeah, Pierre Garçon used to play with the Giants. What's his name from Oakland? Man, I love him. Beast Mode. Marshawn Lynch. He went and he was doing work in Haiti. He had started to build a football
Wait,
field.
you know Marshawn Lynch? Are you saying that he's Haitian?
No, he was going to Haiti, helping to do football, like American football fields in Haiti, because they like football.
Oh, okay.
They like football in Haiti. I ain't gonna lie, man, them damn Haitians.
That is the only name I knew out of the litany of
The
things
names
that
I
you
just
you
said.
guys. Yeah,
I ain't
Marshawn
gonna lie,
Lynch.
them Haitians in Nigeria, Haitians in Nigeria, them over play some football. I ain't gonna lie, they play. Zuli probably can't play none, but he probably ain't played no sports. He just want to call me a lie because I'm the best second baseman. But
Yeah,
Haitians and Nigerians play a lot of football. They play a lot of football.
yeah. But Haitians eat a lot of raw plantain, so that's why they could play. That's why they're so strong. But that's a whole other story.
But but one thing, like even with the Mariano Rivera, then I see that story about Haiti, how those people rushed back and built those houses in their home country for their people over there, and then some people from here helped. It's like, why is it we don't see the same here in this country? We've been tricked over here that everybody can pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Yeah, Zuli, he was a damn disappointment to me. Andre Berto, he was a damn disappointment. Hard-headed, stubborn, don't listen ass. Could have been great, but just turned out to be good. But anyway, how do people from other countries, black people from other countries, don't mind going back, helping? It's this guy on YouTube. His name is the name of his channel was My Name is Cochise, but he's a Dominican brother. He started the channel to show that it ain't no real beef between Afro Dominicans and African Americans, right? He said the ones he said the black ones just don't get to come to America. So he was going back and forth to the Dominican Republic building but he was showing like the baseball players from the Dominican Republic, how a lot of them, he said, you see this? He said, y'all think it. He said, look at this. This is money from baseball players, from Dominican brothers who's from this area who came back and start and wanted to see the community do better. Like, We should do the same thing here. Do the marathon runners from Kenya do it? Do that? Tanzania? Do they go back?
Oh yes, yes they do. They actually go back and build their communities and help the people. So they do go back to the village, and the only problem is that they're not supported as much as they should, with the government. So most of the time they have to live off a few of the endorsements or what they got from the earnings. So increasingly it's gotten better, but yeah, they do go back. Most of them, Kipchoge, he went back to his family. He had I think 2 or 3 wives, and he helped a lot of people. And yeah, there's another one. What was he was a Sudanese, I think, Marlon Bato, I cannot remember his name, but he was this really tall, skinny Sudanese guy, and he played in the NBA for a while. He wasn't very good either. Well, not either. I didn't say that the person that you guys said earlier was or not. I don't know. Ezuli was just talking all kinds of stuff that now he has a worm in my head. But but he went back to South
Manu Bowl. Yeah, Zulu, I might be 50, but I feel 25.
No, a lot of the Africans go back. Akim, Olajuwon, a lot of them help Africa. But I find that what happens is that some of them are Muslims, and you really don't hear about it a lot in the media. And then some of them they speak French, so you don't hear about it in the English
Mhm.
speaking media. But they help a lot though. They do help.
Azuli say, hey, I'm the best second baseman and I'm 50. I feel 25, Azuli. I can catch the ball and get sturdy at the same time. You from New York, you know what getting sturdy is. I'm the best, Azuli. I'm good. Man, I got a glove. I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. Some like Ozzie Smith. I play second, I played second base. And I was gonna hit for average shoot. Wasn't a home run hitter. I was a single and double hitter. That's what I was.
Brother Bakari, you don't think that people from you say that the Americans go and I could talk to you about this without anything. You say that Americans go to the Caribbean sometimes and help. You don't feel like the Caribbean people or the African people help African Americans when they come? You don't think so?
Oh, yes, I do. And
Okay, okay,
that's why you'll never hear that argument from me like what they do for us. I know I've told y'all several times when I had to my son don't want to do it now, so I'm looking for somebody else to get a contract to throw away tires. I mean, look, this is my thing. Of
yeah,
course, when they get here,
yeah,
they use the system, and
yes,
for the most part, they stay to themselves for the most part
yes,
because they heard stuff about us just like we heard stuff about them, right?
yes,
But if you get to know them, like I got to know them because me and my youngest son, man, he been studying African history on his own since he was about 7, 8 years old. He just opened books and started studying and all that, right? But anyway, we go eat African food. So then when we meet African food, then they talk. Then we realize that we got a whole lot in common. Not that we just both African, that we want to help one another. And that's how we meeting it. Food can I realize food can cure can heal a lot of the wounds we have with one another. Like when I had my pressure washing business and I was pressure washing this house, they were Nigerian and they were having a party, right? They was getting ready to have a party. And they were cooking. They asked me they wanted to show me something in the house. I'm like, I don't do that. And they was cooking all this food, and they were there. We having a party, and it just reminded me of how we have a party here in the United States, and like me being from the little country. I told you, if you go to my town, Buwana Hagaziki, and you go there and say, "Oh, I know Pooh," I ain't even got to be with you. Oh, you know Pooh. Oh, you family then. They gonna offer you. They ain't got, but that's how it was. I didn't know these. Man, you been out there doing this our house and our driveway for about 2 hours. You probably hungry. You want to try some. You want to try some Nigerian food? We have some goat. We have
yeah,
some jollof rice. We have
yes.
some, huh?
I think that sometimes too that the brothers them have to remember that the majority of the Africans who come usually a lot of them are Muslims, and the majority of people in America is black folks are Christians. So obviously they're gonna really have a little well, let me say tension. Y'all will probably not go into their mosque, and they will probably not go into your churches. I think that's the first thing. Another thing too is a lot of them are French speakers. You know what I mean? So if you in a when I'm going into my home, I may not do it on the outside, but when I'm going into my home, I'm gonna be speaking a bunch of freaking French. If you don't really know French, you don't really feel you can feel like, well, I'm sitting in a room full of French speakers. I don't feel like they're really, you know what I mean? So it's I don't know, man. We just I think
What language do they speak in Haiti?
they speak
French.
Creole.
Yeah,
Creole.
What?
French Creole. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had Haitian food too. Hey, do y'all eat boiled
Okay,
banana?
but what language can you can we speak with them?
English.
You know, like if you go to Haiti, how do you communicate with them?
If you
Get your
speak
take your cell phone out and translate
uh,
from French to English.
if you
So
speak
so they don't
Creole,
speak English or Spanish?
no, I'm sure no, a lot of Haitians speak Spanish because the DR is right next. So a lot you have a lot of Spanish speaking Haitians, by the way. That would be a good addition. But a lot of them speak
It's
either
only saying we speak Haitian. I don't know what Haitian is. That
Creole.
sounds like we speak
That's what
American.
that's Creole.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
Creole.
you would find a
Okay.
lot of
So,
Haitians who
so
speak
when they
Spanish.
come to New Orleans, they can understand the New
That's a
Orleans.
Yeah, it's
uh,
the same thing. From
nah.
my
It's a little different. It's a little different.
from my experience, they can hold a conversation because I've seen it. They can
That's
hold
true.
a conversation. Some
Yes,
words may be a little different, but
yeah,
yes,
yes, that's true. I agree with that. I agree
the
with that.
people from New Orleans came from Haiti.
I agree with that. The
Okay, okay.
majority, the majority, you all speak it. They all don't speak French. You all speak freaking Creole. Stop lying.
Hey, hey, Azuli, let me ask you a question because you just in the chat trolling. But I had a friend tell me this, right? And I also had a Haitian lady I was real cool with. We used to date sometime, right? But and she had a Spanish last name. Is it true that a lot of Haitians have Spanish last names? And I'm asking because she also told me, and I can't even remember the players. She showed me at least three players. I want to say one of them was David Ortiz, who's from the Dominican Republic, but is actually Haitian. And she's like, a lot of those players you see with those Spanish last name be from Dominican Republic, but they be actually Haitian though. So is Zuli trolling right now? He don't want to answer no question.
No,
He just
that's
want to hate
probably
on
true.
me.
That's
He,
probably true.
he just want to hate on me being 50 years old and being a good second baseman. He just want to hate right now.
Yeah, he's just hating Haitian.
Hating Haitian.
Ah, but wow, it's been a good one. I'm surprised I was able to keep it up. I do have to get ready for my, for my I travel to the motherland. So the next time, oh, you're going to call in? All right, okay. All that's you've been talking stuff. We will give you 5 minutes. Fine. I will wait for 5 minutes to hear Izuli come and talk all that stuff he has been typing.
I'm gonna continue to listen, guys. Man, I'm out. I want to
Ah,
go eat food, so I'm out.
man, are you going to run away just as the fight is starting? Okay, but Brother Bakari, are
No,
you going to wait?
I'll listen. If I have to come back, I'll come back. But I need to eat my food. And I eat my yet for the day.
Yeah,
Hey,
I
what,
need to get ready too. So Azuli will give you 5 minutes, and then you'll
I'll
have
give him
10 minutes,
5 minutes.
and
I'll
then
give him 5 minutes.
hey,
all right.
Bawan, let me ask you a question, Bawan. Do
Hey,
y'all eat boiled bananas in the Bahamas too?
sometimes we eat more cassava. You know what I mean? We eat more cassava and things like that. But boy,
I, I've had I've had boiled banana once. I got it from my Haitian friends, and
yeah, that's the Haitian dish, man. That's there.
me and my son was eating it. He was like, "Man, my son said this just for a filler. It ain't got no
Yeah,
flavor.
it's just a filler. It's just a filler.
It's just a filler, a boiled banana."
Yeah,
Like, man,
yeah,
they could have just gave me my banana cold.
Wait, are you saying boiled banana is a filler
yeah.
Yeah,
Boiled
to
plant.
people who eat rice?
that's what rice is, a filler. But you can season that rice. So stop hating, Tanzan.
I'm just asking. Like rice is like popcorn
Yeah,
food. You're just eating a drop air, like droplets of air. That stuff is not going to do anything for you.
But you
Yeah,
know, y'all eat
you
a lot of rice in Kenya,
yeah,
don't y'all?
you know they eat millet.
Not a lot. They do
They
that in the coast a little bit, but even when you eat rice, they add that with chapati and meat and vegetables and all kinds of things. Rice is such a useless, to me, thing to eat that, yeah, people don't really eat it like that. If you have to eat it, you have to lay it all with so much stuff that you might as well, just not waste the time.
yeah,
But it's more of a
but
coastal thing.
but nothing in millet either. That's a filler too.
No, millet is filling. Millet and sorghum and all those, that's filling. That's one of those things that
Rice is
after you
filling
eat, you
too.
pat your stomach, you know?
Yeah, but rice does the same thing.
No, no. Rice, as soon as you're eating it, you're just inhaling air. You're going to be empty in a few hours and you're already planning for your next meal, you
No,
know?
what
Yes.
see what we do? No, hear me out. Hear me out. No, hear me out, time. How we eat rice, and Brother Bakari will agree with this because he's from the south. We eat peas and rice. So we put peas in our rice, like bongo peas. I know probably never heard about that. Red beans and things like that. We
Mm-hmm.
put that in the rice. So that heavy protein is kind of like it does this like it kind of like fills our stomach, and you could go on the job after eating something like that.
Yeah, it's a West African thing, I'm sure of it. Yes.
It's a West
Yes,
African thing.
because yeah, West Africans just love rice, 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 rice on things, and then they throw all kinds of things in there that don't should not even be there. Rice can be eaten with very few options, maybe beans and meat, sometimes maybe chicken if you have to. But some people even eat rice with fish. Like
all,
what
all,
kind of
all of us can't eat cow blood. I mean,
hmm?
all of us can't suck on cow blood.
At least it's
Tanzan,
filling. At
Tanzan, why
least
you
it's
hating on your cousins, Tanzan?
filling.
Why you hating on your cousins, Tan?
She, she eating congealed cow blood and she talking about we eating rice. What difference is?
Do y'all eat peas? Black eyed peas,
Yes, we
Tanzan?
do eat peas. Peas are good. We eat a lot of legumes. Peas, beans,
Do you eat black eyed peas?
yes, all different kinds.
You know,
We eat
black
all
eyed
different.
peas come from West Africa too.
Oh, okay. They must have gotten it from the east. Yes.
Oh, okay. It may have come from the east. We, I'm gonna tell you something. The question I asked, right,
Yes.
when I said how these people had their ass kicked by everybody, now kicking our ass. I was dead serious, man. If you watch their history, these bastards done bowed down to every damn body.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to get on some pinto beans and mustard greens. You're right, Bobby. You're right.
What
You
the
eat
hell is
pinto beans, Tanzan?
If there's beans, we have several different kinds. So I think I have had those, but I don't know what mustard greens are.
Man, I don't know what my cigarettes are either.
Oh, y'all eat collard greens? You eat collard,
Yes.
Lou. Y'all
No,
eat collard.
no, you can't beat us when it comes to vegetables. We eat a lot of vegetables. Like when I tell you a lot, it's a lot. If you look at the protein menu, you have like two or three things. If you look at the vegetable menu, it goes all the way down. So when it comes to the greens, we eat all the greens. I just don't know what mustard greens are because I'm
You
thinking
go.
it's like ketchup greens and that mustard green. Like how can it be mustard and green at the same time? But
Yeah,
okay.
I
That's
never
just
seen
the
a fat
name.
cannon. You ever
That's
seen a fat cannon, Brother Bakari?
huh?
You ever seen a fat cannon? I never seen a fat cannon before.
No. You see them fat. You want me to tell you something, right? You know why we don't eat a lot of vegetables here? West Africans go to a West African restaurant and
It's
show
just
me
meat, pure
show,
meat.
show me more than one vegetable on the menu.
That's true.
They don't have no vegetables on the
It's
menu.
pure meat, pure meat, pure meat. Yeah, yeah.
All right. The talker of all that is here. Welcome, welcome, Karibu Ezuli.
Hey, what's
Talk
up,
that
guys?
noise now, Izuli.
Sack
What
that
up?
thing
What up?
third bag.
Talk to
Uh-huh.
why you hating on my baseball skills, Izuli?
What? You 50? How you gonna be the best second baseman every city you go? What?
I'm still good.
Are you talking about senior league or are you talking about
No,
regular?
major league, major
No,
league.
no, 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 no. We're not
I'm,
taking that, boy.
I'm still
Yo,
good.
for the senior citizen league, you the best.
I'm gonna tell you something, Zuli. I'm gonna come to New York and I'm gonna tell you, and I know you're gonna bet me because I'm 50. I'll be 51 when you see me, right?
Yeah.
You take your money just like I took my nephew money. We gonna go to the batting cage, and I want to go to the batting cage. I want to get in the one 95 to 100 miles per hour, and I will bet you
Nah, you don't hit none of them.
they'll never strike me out. They
You
cannot
don't hit
strike me out.
You don't hit none of them. No way. No
I'm
freaking.
telling you, never strike me out.
Yo, what your 50-year-old nigga? Son, you're not hitting nothing.
Don't hit
Stop.
me up, 95 miles an hour. I don't believe
I'm
that.
telling you, it never strike me out.
Oh, hold up.
Ezuli, just one comment, Ezuli. Do you play baseball?
Nah, I don't play baseball.
Oh, okay. So you wouldn't know. Do you know about baseball? Do you watch baseball?
Yeah, I know about baseball. I just watched the Houston Astros win the World Series just now. What up,
Oh,
bro?
okay. So you know what a second base receiver is?
Yeah, I know what a second base receiver is. I know what a
Oh,
second
okay.
base receiver is.
What the hell is a second base receiver?
So, hold on, sorry. I know what a second base receiver is.
Izuli, why
Yeah.
you hating though, Izuli? I thought me and you had crossed that bridge when we were cool, Izuli. Now you hating on me.
No, I'm not saying you said. You know what you just said? Or every city I go, I'm the best second base player.
Yes. Name a city. Just name a city. I'm gonna go there and be the best second baseman.
You talking about in the world or in America?
It don't make shit. Let me go to the Dominican Republic. I'll be the best over
Nah,
there.
hell nah. Not them Dominicans? Hell nah.
But
Nah.
Nahaguziki, do you play baseball?
They don't have any baseball field in the Bahamas. They don't have none of that shit over there.
Oh, okay. They probably just have, swimming for your life. But
All they
yeah,
have in the Bahamas is track and field. When they chasing gold. That's it.
that's the second part of, swimming for your life. You run to the shore and then you swim the rest of the way.
Hey, you know what I saw? I was watching this thing on the Bahamas. They're the only people I know. They hunt wild hogs with their hands, man. They just take their dogs out there. They didn't even shoot the wild hog. They took their dogs out, and their dogs grabbed the hog, and they just went and wrapped his mouth up and picked him up. And I'm like, what the hell? We kill him when we get back. They just wrapped him up when the dog. They're the only people I know hunt with their bare hands.
Well, I was calling to say that, like, we in Haiti they speak French, and they don't speak Spanish. It's a French and a Spanish island. The Dominican, they speak Spanish. The Haitian, on the other Haitian side, not most people don't speak French, but it's a French speaking colonized country or whatever. But
Okay.
the majority of people, you say why I say Haitian, because people speak English, right? What do Italians speak? Italian. What do Germans speak? Germans. So why can't I say I'm Haitian and I speak Haitian? So even though they use Creole, do you know what Creole means? Creole is a white person that was born in the Caribbean. That's the original meaning of Creole.
You mean
For
you?
real?
Creole does not mean a mixture. The original meaning of Creole is a kid born, and a European kid or a French kid born in the Caribbean.
Wow,
Huh.
you
But
just
it's
learned me something, Zulu.
Yeah. How did it get to that, to what people think is the mixture part of it?
Oh,
But
that's the United States.
What do you think? No, no. It's not just. A lot of Haitian people would tell you they speak Creole, but I refuse to say that because Creole is just a dialect. I believe the dialect is a language now. How long does it take for a dialect to become a language? Everything's good. How long does it take? We keep saying, "Oh, we speak Creole is the same thing I say in patois."
Yeah, that's what Jamaicans speak patois.
Don't you
Yeah,
speak?
but
Yeah,
how long? Go ahead.
You
and
can
it's
speak
impossible
patois.
to understand what they're saying, unless you're from the Caribbean. When Caribbeans start talking, in their, I don't know if it's the accent or the dialect or whatever it is, nobody can understand them. They go into their, me, Fina, all this liquor. Nobody knows what they're talking about.
What?
But you know what's
Then
funny?
if you wasn't African, if you're a white person said that, they would have been like, "Yo, what?"
I'm gonna say that's some colonial racist shit. What?
What you say? You know me if you don't lick them.
What?
But you know what I found out now this was in the military. I'm not saying all, right? But I did meet when I was in the army, Nigerians, they hung more with Jamaicans, right? And I used to hear them talk. And they would literally speak patois. The Nigerians could. They would literally speak in patois.
Nah, it's a different part because okay, you know what? Like there's an African country on the east side. If you listen to them, if you listen to them talk, you would say they speak Creole because they were colonized by the French. So like Guadeloupe, Martinique, Dominica, they all speak a type of Creole. So if I go meet up with them, it might be different. I could have a conversation with them.
And you will be able to understand them, but you all
People from Dominica, because Dominica, I think they speak English patois and French patois,
and French, yes.
which is Creole technically.
That's right.
Guadeloupe, Martinique.
Yeah.
You guys ever heard of the group called Kassav?
Even St. Lucia too, to a degree.
Have you ever heard of the group called Kassav?
Nah.
Yes. Yeah.
Nobody heard of the group called Kassav?
No, I heard of the group called Kassav.
Yeah, so that group is from Martinique, but they speak Creole. They speak a so-called Creole. A lot of people think Kassav is Haitian, but they're not. They're from Martinique and Guadeloupe. So I could have a conversation with them, even though I could have a conversation, it might take time because we speak a different Creole, but we can't understand each other. It's just like a Jamaican person speaks the patois and the Trinidadian person speak the patois English too. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
a Frenchman, no, but Erzuli, if a French person was to come from France and go into Haiti, he would have a little bit of trouble understanding the language.
Nah, a French person can't speak to me.
Yeah, they wouldn't have no trouble, Bhavan, because the Zulu would be right there. Let me translate for you.
Let me translate to you, sir. Let me translate to make sure.
No, no.
Confused with these Negroes.
Zulu, that would be you or Zulu.
Nah, I wouldn't. No, a French person who speaks French cannot have a conversation with a Haitian person that speak. They cannot have a food, like they could say food, because like in French, eating is manger.
Manger.
So in Haitian, well, okay, I'll speak that. Well, most Haitian people say Creole. And Creole, you also say manger. Right? So there's a word that I used to think that was French, like twins. The Haitian word for twin is marasa, right? I used to think that word was a French word, but it's not. The word for twins in French is jumeau. So a French person could come to Haiti and ask for direction, because like house is maison. We could say maison in French is maison, and Creole you could say maison or kai. So, but a French person we cannot have a straight conversation to understand each other just like that. No,
I don't think so. That's why I say the language is different.
My daughter just called me. I got to go pick my daughter up.
Okay. All right. So
maybe y'all still be on.
Same here. Let's start wrapping it up. On the other side, I'll see you on the motherland. So yeah.
Zulu, why you never come to my channel, man?
What you said?
Why you never come to my channel?
Yes, sir.
Your channel is on the Sunday?
Yeah, I do a show on Sunday. Yeah, 3:00.
Put him on the spot, Brother Bakari.
No. Sometimes I go to sleep late, and then when I wake up, I'm gonna be on there this Sunday, Brother Bakari. Yeah. My apologies. I'll be on there this Sunday.
You got him, Brother Bakari. You got him.
You put me on the spot.
Second baseman.
Because there'd be like 3 shows. Hold up, Brother Bakari. There'd be like 3 shows on Sunday. There'd be like I was on somebody's at 11. I don't know who's at 11, and I barely missed it.
That's Oni.
Oni's at 11, but there was a lady, and there's like 5 shows on Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday's a full day, but I think Oni goes first, and then I think Asidra goes afterwards, and then Hash Reality Podcast, and then sometimes Brother Bakari or
No, Brother
Debuko.
Bakari, I think I was on your show one time. I didn't comment. You was giving something about the a business, right?
That's what I do every Sunday, man. And I want other
Yes.
people to come when they come. Bring a couple of name of black businesses with you so we can promote them and support them so we can start supporting each
Okay,
other.
okay. I'm gonna be there this Sunday. Damn, I'm gonna be there
Yes.
this Sunday.
Hey, let me ask you a question. You from Port-au-Prince?
Oh my God, is that gonna be a joke?
No, I got a buddy from Port-au-Prince. And we were talking about, he said some places when they get a little better, he gonna take me over there some places we gonna go get some land around in the country, but close
Yeah.
to Prince.
Well, and because Port-au-Prince is the city. The city's not good, man.
Yeah, that's why we going
Especially,
out to the country. It's just close to the
yeah,
city.
the country's better. Especially right now, the city's not really good.
And
But
he
they
said
said
the
the
beach
country,
property is cheap too, he said.
yeah, but you got to be careful, man. Don't end up like that girl that got scammed out of building a house in Ghana, and then she was like, so the guy grabbed my face because I don't want no guy grabbing your face, you know.
Well, I'm going with my friend from Haiti.
Oh, okay.
You know, I'm not going by myself. I'm going with my friend from. Hey, but you know what? Come to find out, that lady you talking about, they say she was lying about that. That was somebody she was dating, and they had problems.
Wow, you see, and only and
You see?
nah.
Good.
See, you know, I gotta give you respect, brother Bakari, because even though I think in that show you was pushing against us, but you see how you can't oh my, no, brother Bakari, you can't just drop this big news. You gotta drop it on Shoot the Breeze when Oni's there.
No. Only give me big argument off of that too. You know, he give me a big asshole argument off of that same lady saying, well, you know, she's a believer because no. You shouldn't bring that up.
No, brother Bakari, you gotta bring that up on Shoot the Breeze or anytime if the time. No, that's a big. I felt it. I felt that she was lying. There was something wrong.
Yeah, they say come to find out she was lying. I forget her name, but they say she did something, and it was she was talking about it. Yes, she was lying.
Wow, you see, and brother Oni talk about, oh, we gotta believe her. She said it. Yo, Oni
Hey, but
state simping.
you know, Summer Zulu, you know the simps gonna stick together though, right? Hey, but look, let me go pick up my daughter.
All right.
Good talking to all of you. Yes, it was great. It was wonderful. Asante all for joining.
So how long you hold up before you leave? How long you going to the motherland? How long?
Till the end of the month.
Oh,
You have a terrible echo, by the way.
Oh yeah, my bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so yeah, I'll be there for a while.
Till December.
Yeah, before I come back before the holiday season.
Oh, okay. And you going back to Kenya?
No, I'll go back to the US.
No, I'm saying you going back. Your homeland is Kenya, right?
Yes.
Oh, that's what I mean. You're going back to Kenya. Okay.
Yes,
But you can. Are you gonna do shows from Kenya?
Yes, I am. The last time I did.
You should do a show about the blood. We need to get down to that blood thing.
All right, I'll see.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Later.
All right, later. And Amani, thank you. Asante everyone for joining. Bobby, Right, Zuli, of course. And everybody, I have to run, so I'll give you all your acknowledgements in the comment sections when I get to it. So thank you and have a good night or good morning. So Kwaheri, that's goodbye, and we'll see you next time on the other side. And once again, we end with prayer of gratitude to the ancestors for always giving us, and we don't take it for granted, a good conversation full of insight, sharing information and wisdom, enlightenment, and good company. So thank you all for joining. Asante sana. Tutaonana. Amani is peace.